Pirates, get the telekinesis fruit at the start. Chapter 21. Watching the two people fighting and playing, Kyle felt like he was taking his daughter shopping. He stopped them one by one. Okay, there are so many people on the street, the bag will be broken soon, you can take the things yourself. Until the sky gradually darkened. The three of them returned to the hotel with a lot of things. When sleeping at night, Kyle did not relax his vigilance and was always in a state of half sleep and half wakefulness. He felt that he was paranoid. The two slave traders killed during the day probably had an organization behind them, and he didn't know if others would associate their deaths with himself. Although he did it very secretly, from the scene, it was completely the two people who fought and died. But there was no guarantee that no one would find something strange. Fortunately, nothing happened overnight. The next day, Kyle got up early and started exercising, and he would not slack off even when he was outside. Practicing is like sailing against the current, if you don't advance, you will retreat. At the beginning of the exercise, Kyle exerted a lot of willpower. After all, he was not a person who liked to exercise in his previous life. His favorite thing was to stay at home. Now he can keep exercising because he is afraid of death. However, after several years of practice, he enjoys it now and can clearly feel that he is getting stronger. He still has a lot of things to do, and he hopes to have the power to protect his family as soon as possible. When everyone got up, they saw Kyle swinging his sword in the yard, his muscles bulging, and his clothes soaked with sweat. The two sisters greeted him in a daze. "Good morning, Kyle." Kyle put away his long sword and exhaled. "Good morning, everyone. I went back to the house and took a cold shower, and I felt comfortable all over. As soon as I went out, I was pulled out of the hotel by the two sisters." Seeing her daughter in such a hurry to go out, Anna hurriedly shouted, "Luli, Leah, have breakfast before playing." "Mom, you eat by yourself, we'll go out to eat. Then be careful." Seeing the three people who had already left, Anna sighed helplessly. It's a pity for Kyle, who was dragged around by those two girls all day long. Sophia on the side chuckled. "Mrs. Anna, I think it's good. The two ladies like Kyle so much. Maybe in the future, hee. Anna rolled her eyes at Sophia. "The two girls are so naughty, Kyle probably doesn't like them." On the street, Leah pulled Kyle and said excitedly, "Kyle, let's go to the restaurant we had yesterday to eat. The food made by Chunya's father is delicious." Leah is right. Luli also missed the food yesterday. Okay, Kyle had no choice but to be dragged by the two to the remote restaurant. The small restaurant has been open for business for a long time. Chunyi, who was busy, seemed very happy to see Kyle and the other two. "Good morning, brother Kyle, sister Luli, sister Leah." "Good morning, Chunyi." The three found a seat where no one was sitting. Kyle followed the old rules and ordered a book of dishes directly. "There are many customers at this time. You may have to wait a little longer," Chunyi said apologetically. "It's okay, just take your time. It's okay to wait a little longer for delicious food." Kyle waved his hand indifferently. Anyway, they were not in a hurry. It was boring to sit there. Looking at the busy Chunyi, Luli and Leah went up to help enthusiastically. Chunyi wanted to refuse, because it would be very rude to ask customers to help, but she didn't stop the two sisters after all. Looking at the three people talking and laughing, Kyle found it very interesting. He was still thinking about how to build a good relationship. Unexpectedly, the two sisters were quite good at handling things. Wouldn't it be much easier to invite the little girl on board in the future? He poured himself a cup of tea, took out a cigar and lit it, crossed his legs and looked around boredly. He looked like a retired old man. At this time, a shadow covered his head. Kyle looked up and saw a tall man sitting opposite him familiarly. Kyle was speechless. Isn't this Dorag? How come he met him again? Dorag on the opposite side naturally picked up the teapot and poured tea. He took a sip and then looked at Kyle. "This guy, what a coincidence, we meet again." Uncle, who are you? Kyle pretended to be stupid. He didn't understand why Dorag came to him. Did he want to invite him to join the Revolutionary Army? With the cruel means he showed yesterday, would the Revolutionary Army agree to let someone like him join? Dorag was silent for a long time before he said, "Brother Kyle, has anyone told you that your performance is exaggerated?" Kyle pretended to be surprised. "Really? Sorry, I'll try to correct it next time." Drager fell silent again, and a few black lines magically appeared on his forehead. It took a while before he spoke again. "Brother Kyle, I have no ill intentions. You don't need to be so cautious." "Okay, what do you want to talk to me about?" Kyle stopped provoking him, so that he wouldn't tear himself apart when he got angry. He took out a cigar and handed it over. "Want one?" Seeing that Kyle was finally willing to communicate, Dorag breathed a sigh of relief and took the cigar naturally. Then he was stunned. Is this little guy in front of him really just a child? The thing with his legs crossed, the behavior of passing cigarettes skillfully. He shook his head and didn't think too much, lit up the cigar and took a puff. "Actually, it's nothing. I was just a little surprised when I saw the little brother take action yesterday. Of course, I'm not in the same group with those slave traders. I just happened to meet you today." He was telling the truth. After seeing Kyle's weird operation yesterday, he became interested. The Revolutionary Army is in need of manpower. However, before understanding Kyle's specific situation, the Revolutionary Army cannot invite him rashly. He plans to observe for a while. "I didn't expect to meet again today." Kyle didn't doubt it. He didn't think that dragon came to see him specifically. "Uncle, don't talk nonsense. I'm just an ordinary person, a law-abiding citizen. You can't frame me." Dragon didn't care about Kyle's exaggerated acting. "I don't mean anything else. You don't have to be nervous. I'm just curious about how you, who have strong strength, would be willing to stay in a small caravan in obscurity." Kyle guessed that he should have asked about his news from Chunye. After drinking a sip of tea and thinking for a while, he said, "Can't you have an ordinary life if you have strength? It's not that you can't have it, but at your age, don't you yearn for the vastness of the sea? Don't you want to have a big career? For example, become the pirate king or become a navy admiral or something like that?" Dragon felt that he was not facing a teenager, but an adult who saw through everything. Kyle wanted to complain that you, a leader of the Revolutionary Army, talked to me about the dream of being a pirate and a navy. But Dragon seemed to be a vice admiral in the past. Grandpa Garp is a navy hero, his son is a navy who jumped ship to become the leader of the Revolutionary Army, and his grandson is the future pirate king. Wow, your family has taken over all three major forces. Stopping his wild thoughts, Kyle coughed and said, "Ahem, Uncle, I'm just an ordinary person. The dreams you mentioned are not realistic at all. It's good enough to live an ordinary life. The sea is vast, and I really want to see it, but not to become a pirate or a navy, I just want to see this different world." Drag asked curiously, "What do you think of this world, little brother?" Chapter 22. That's it. Not good nor bad. Kyle shook his teacup and said something from the heart. From his perspective, this world is indeed like this. There are extraordinary powers that he had dreamed of before, and Anna's family who have always been very kind to him. There are also pirates who burn, kill and plunder, and there are slave traders like the one he met yesterday. Overall, it's a mixture of good and bad. After drinking the last sip of tea, Dorag nodded with satisfaction. "Brother, you are very good. This sea will definitely become beautiful in the future." After saying that, he stood up, patted Kyle's shoulder, and returned to his seat. He had already got the answer he wanted. Kyle was confused at the moment. Why did this guy leave while talking? He still respected people like Dorag. There were many people who hated this world, but very few had the strength and were willing to change it. Revolution, to make this sea more beautiful. What a great dream. At this time, Luli came over with an apron tied around her waist and a dining cart. This guest, your food is ready. Good guy. Kyle didn't know what to say. Luli and Leah really acted as waiters. He suspected that the two came here not for eating, but simply to play with new friends. Okay, let's eat together. You are not hungry, but I am. Kyle, you eat first. Leah and I have to serve food to other guests. Okay. Kyle didn't bother to care about them, and started eating with the tableware. Many guests in the restaurant looked at Luli and Leah curiously, mainly because they were good-looking and even dressed very delicately. You can tell at a glance that they are not children from ordinary families. Many people asked curiously, Boss Chunye, have you recruited new employees again? The boss is really a jerk. He actually let such a cute girl work. Chunye waved her hands quickly. Many people were regular customers. She knew that these people liked to joke. Don't talk nonsense, you guys. Luli and Leah are my friends. They are just helping me. Because of the three little girls, the atmosphere in the restaurant was much more lively, and many people took the initiative to serve their own food. Some people also took out some snacks as small gifts for the three people. Kyle's meal was almost over when the two sisters returned to the table, talking and laughing. But they were stunned to see that the table was full of empty plates. Kyle, you've finished eating, what should we eat? I thought you didn't eat. Helplessly, the two sisters went to order another table of food. After a while, they were very hungry. Just when the three of them were happily eating, what they didn't know was that more than a dozen ships were slowly approaching on the sea in the distance. More than a dozen ships were flying different flags, but judging from the patterns, they were all pirate ships. In the cabin of the leading ship, 6 people were sitting around a table. There were several younger brothers standing behind each of them, some of them were big and strong, and some of them had sinister faces. In short, just looking at their faces, you can tell that they are not easy to get along with. Damn, these guys in the Navy are really abominable. They actually killed more than a dozen of my brothers. A big man holding a mace was smoking a cigar and cursing. A woman wearing a skull mask next to him frowned unhappily and stretched out her hand to pat away the smoke in front of her. Haha, what's the pity of killing that kind of trash? Only you, Baron, would take that kind of weak bird out to sea. Hearing the woman's ridicule, the big man was instantly furious and slowly raised the mace in his hand. Damn, Eureka, what the hell are you talking about? Don't think that I dare not do it just because you are a woman. The woman named Eureka was not panicked at all. A revolver kept spinning in her hand and she stretched out her scarlet tongue to lick her fingers. Oh, Lord Baron is angry, I'm so scared. He pointed the gun at the big man. That's enough. At this time, a man sitting in the first seat said, if you want to fight, you have to wait until the matter is done. Now we are on my ship, be quiet. The two of them snorted coldly and put down their weapons. The others had different expressions, some were excited, some were disdainful, and some were silent. The leading man said loudly, this time we need to plunder this country as quickly as possible and tell those guys in the Navy what will happen if they provoke us. Baron asked, Vulcan, with so many of us, wouldn't it be better to occupy this country directly? Yes, if those guys in the Navy dare to come, we must let them know how powerful our Captain Baron is. Vulcan patted his head. The table stopped the noisy people. The purpose of this time is for treasure, not for the bullshit position of the king. The Navy guys are not easy to mess with. We are going to enter the Grand Line and compete for the treasure of the Pirate King. How can we let our brothers lose here? At this time, a small minion pushed the door and ran in. Captains, you can already see the port of Oiko. Everyone in the cabin began to be eager to try. Vulcan clapped his hands and raised the red wine glass in front of him. Captains, then it's time to perform next. Give the Navy a profound lesson. And prove our strength to the world. Everyone raised the red wine glass and drank it all. Several people came from different pirate groups. Because after the Rogue Town incident, they gathered together to avoid being surrounded by the Navy. Hiding in the dark for 4 years. They are all gathered together at this moment because of a common goal. They are going to do something big that will shock the East China Sea. That is to attack the member states of the world government. The Kingdom of Oiko. If successful, they will have a large amount of wealth, and at the same time they can expand their reputation and attract powerful members to join. In this way, they will have greater capital when entering the Grand Line. The 120th Navy Branch in the East China Sea. Bulu bulu bulu. In an office, the voice of Den Den Mushi rang hurriedly. Captain Helen of the Navy Branch hesitated whether to answer it, fearing that the king of the Kingdom of Oiko would ask the Navy to deal with some chores again. The Den Den Mushi rang for a long time, but she had no choice but to pick up the microphone and said slowly. Hello, this is the 120th branch office, I am Helen. I couldn't help cursing in my heart. It's really difficult for the Navy stationed near the member states. Not only did they have to deal with pirates, but they are also occasionally asked by the king to do some miscellaneous rebellions. The Navy often can't refuse. If you don't agree, the king will come up with all kinds of reasons. For example, because the rebels could not afford to pay the Tianshengzhen, or the Navy did not provide corresponding protection after paying the Tianshengzhen. Hey, Colonel Helen, there is an emergency. We have detected more than 10 pirate ships heading towards the port of the Kingdom of Oiko. The number of pirates is estimated to be thousands. Chapter 23. What? Helen was startled. Due to excitement, the chair leg under her broke with a snap, and her whole body fell to the ground. Hey, Colonel Helen, are you okay? Hello. Anxious words came from the microphone. Regardless of the pain in her body, Helen got up and shouted into the microphone. You take people to support immediately. I will notify other branches and the king. Don't let this group of pirates land on the island. Yes. After hanging up the phone, Helen hurriedly reported to the top leaders. The Navy leaders also attached great importance to it and immediately mobilized all nearby branches to support. On a warship not far from the Kingdom of Oiko. It was very lively at this time. A group of people gathered together and made a lot of noise. Oh, you are really bad. You fell down in one round. No, I still bet on the left side to win this time. I don't believe it. The cabin was filled with smoke, and a large group of people were playing cards and wrestling. Bulu bulu bulu. The sound of the Den Den Mushi sounded, and everyone fell silent. The young marine hurriedly brought the Den Den Mushi to the officer. The officer was a woman with pink hair tied behind her head with a rubber band, wearing a navy cape with the word, Justice, on it, and a cigarette in her mouth. Major Belmere, it's a call from the base. Belmere frowned unhappily. These guys in the base have so many things to do. What's the matter with them after finally having some leisure time? He picked up the phone impatiently. Hello. This is the patrol boat of the 120th branch, I'm Belmere. As soon as he picked up the phone, he heard a roar from the other side. Belmere, what are you doing? It took you so long to answer the phone. Belmere felt pain in his eardrums and moved the phone away. Boss, we work very hard. Without listening to her quibbling, the other party interrupted directly. Don't say useless things. The Kingdom of Oiko has been attacked by pirates. You should immediately take people to support it. The other party also told all the information about the pirates. After hanging up the phone, Belmere looked heavy, extinguished his cigarette and said loudly. Young men, urgent mission. Gather. All the Marines stopped playing. Although they were lazy at ordinary times, they still showed the qualities that the Navy should have when it came to the critical moment. Did you hear that? We have to deal with several pirate groups this time. That's thousands of pirates, and there are only a few hundred people in the base. If we fight, we will all die. Damn, I'm not afraid of anything. Today, we will let these pirates know how powerful we are. Who the hell is afraid? I joined the Navy to eliminate pirates. How can I be afraid? A group of people were noisy, but no one was afraid. Belmere said loudly. You heard the call from the base just now. This time we are facing thousands of pirates. Everyone, cheer up and don't let these guys hurt civilians. Let's go. On Kyle's side, the two sisters finally waited for their food, and they ate it without caring about their image. At this moment, there was a loud bang. A shell flew from somewhere and hit a house not far away, followed by a violent explosion. As the house collapsed, smoke instantly filled the street. Kyle only felt the ground tremble, and he didn't understand what happened. Pirates are coming. Pirates are attacking the port. Someone shouted, and everyone on the street became terrified and hurried to their homes to hide. Are there pirates? The two sisters who were eating stopped what they were doing. Hearing that the pirates were attacking the port, they immediately thought of Anna and everyone in the village. Luli held Kyle's hand and said anxiously, "Kyle, Mom and the others are probably still at the port." Kyle held her hand and comforted her. "Don't worry, Uncle Loden and Sister Sophia are here. Call and ask where they are now." Hearing this, Luli calmed down and took out a Den Den Mushi from her arms. At this moment, the Den Den Mushi also happened to ring. Luli quickly picked up the phone, and Anna's worried voice came from the other side. "Luli, where are you now? Are you okay?" Various noisy sounds could still be heard vaguely. "Mom, we are fine. Are you still on the ship at the port?" Both sides were relieved to hear that everything was fine. After a brief understanding, when the pirates appeared, Anna and the others were counting the goods on the ship. As for how many pirates there were, Anna did not say. With Sophia and Loden leading the escort team, everyone was fine for the time being. Anna also told Kyle and the other two to hide. After hanging up the phone, Luli and Leah looked at Kyle and asked for his opinion. After several years of getting along with them, they all have blind worship and dependence on Kyle. Kyle is not clear about the specific situation. However, pirates who have the courage to attack the allied countries are generally not simple characters. "Let's go to the port first. We can help if there is danger." He also had a bad premonition in his heart. He knew that pirates and the Navy would fight in this country this year, but he didn't know the specific time. And it was because of that war that Nami and Nokigo were adopted by Belmir. It would be bad if that battle really happened. The only thing he is worried about now is Anna and the others. For the safety of the two sisters, Kyle must take them with him. He is not at ease in other places. Chunye shouted anxiously from behind, "The pirates are coming, hide quickly, where are you going?" The friends she just met are still children like her. If they encounter pirates, it will be over. Kyle waved his hand. "Don't worry about us, hide yourself, we have to leave first." Then he took the two women out without looking back. With Dorag around, Kyle was not worried about the safety here. The streets were full of messy crowds, and many things were scattered all over the ground. Walking through the remote streets, we came to the previously bustling port town. At this time, the originally bustling streets were full of traces of artillery bombing. Countless people were fighting together, including pirates, guards, kingdom troops, and navy. The streets were extremely chaotic. Countless civilians were killed and injured, and there were wailing and crying everywhere. Looking at the chaotic streets, Kyle felt that it was not easy to get through. Without caring about so much, he pulled the two women into the sky. Many people noticed the three people flying in the sky, but there was no time to sigh, because they might be chopped down by their opponents if they were not careful. The perspective of flying in the sky is different, and you can see the situation of the port at a glance. There were two waves of pirates. There were 6 pirate ships docked at the port. There was also smoke rising in the distance. I think they were also attacked. I didn't care about other places and flew straight to my own ship. On the deck of the ship, Sophia and Loden were leading the crew to block the pirates from boarding the ship. In order not to damage the hull and supplies, the pirates did not use cannons to bombard. Sophia turned into a 4 or 5 meter tall panda at this time, and each punch could knock several people away. She rushed forward without caring about anything, and the swords and knives could not hurt her at all. Countless pirates were frightened and did not dare to move forward. At first, they were very disdainful of the weak Sophia, but who knew that the beautiful girl suddenly turned into a panda warrior? This scene was completely beyond their cognition. Chapter 24. Seeing that none of his men dared to come forward, the pirate captain raised his sword and shouted, "Come on, all of you, this monster can't hold on any longer. Whoever can subdue her will be the first to take the treasures and women on the ship." The pirates who were originally timid were immediately excited when they heard this, and they rushed forward one by one without caring about their lives. Sophia was a little desperate at this time, and there were pirates everywhere. Several crew members who fought desperately shouted, "Sophia, take Mrs. Anna away quickly, we will hold these pirates back." A young man hugged the pirates in front of him tightly and shouted as well, "Our lives were saved by Mrs. Anna's family. We can all die, but Mrs. Anna cannot die here." Sophia roared, and her huge bare paw slapped several pirates away. Looking at the countless pirates, she shook her head in despair. She knew she couldn't run away now, and there were pirates all around her, and she had very little physical strength left. At this moment, the pirates on the ship suddenly became chaotic. All the pirates ran around screaming as if they had encountered something terrible. One by one, the pirates began to fall on the deck strangely. The neck was twisted unnaturally. Sophia also saw the changes in the pirates around her and didn't understand what happened. A pirate ran to her in a panic and raised his fist to attack. Suddenly, the head of the pirate in front of her turned 180 degrees, and there was a click, and the sound of bone breaking was heard. Sophia paused with her raised fist, and felt a chill in her back when she saw the horrifying scene in front of her. A good person suddenly had his neck twisted by an unknown thing, and anyone who saw it would be scared. At this time, someone patted her on the back, turned around and looked, and immediately became anxious. "Kyle, Miss Luli, Miss Leah, why are you here? It's very dangerous here, hurry up." She was stunned before she was about to come out. Why did the pirates around her fall on the ship? The other crew members were also looking around in confusion. Kyle did not explain to her, and said to the two sisters, "Take good care of Sophia, I will deal with the other ship first." The two sisters nodded, and Leah drew her long sword from her back and looked around vigilantly. This scene really looked like a female swordsman. Her training in the past few years was not in vain. She could not compare with Kyle, but dealing with ordinary small pirates was like cutting melons and vegetables. Looking at Kyle flying directly to another ship, all the crew members were confused. Kyle and the others knew that the boy rescued in the village liked to exercise. He was either running around the island or swinging a sword. But the boy who had been together for several years suddenly showed extraordinary abilities, and everyone couldn't believe it for a while. At this time, someone reacted. "Don't stand there, rescue the wounded quickly." Upon hearing this, everyone took action and moved all the injured companions together for treatment. At this time, Sophia had already released her beast form, and Luli helped her into the cabin. Anna was also in the cabin at this time. She had no fighting power, so in order not to cause trouble, she stayed in the cabin all the time. Seeing Luli supporting Sophia, she became anxious immediately. "Luli, didn't I tell you to hide? What are you doing here?" Seeing that her mother was fine, Luli threw herself into her arms and told her about how Kyle brought them here. And the incident of Kyle killing the pirates on the ship just now. After hearing this, both of them opened their mouths in surprise. Luli didn't explain too much, just said that Kyle just waved his hand, and all the pirates around him fell to the ground. Sophia herself is a devil fruit ability user, and she knows how powerful this power is, but Kyle's performance is too terrifying. She doubted whether the devil fruit she ate was fake. Not long after, Kyle brought Lawton back to the ship, and also carried a big man with a bag on his head. Lawton was covered in wounds and blood on his clothes. Seeing this miserable state, several doctors rushed over. Lawton was still confused at this time. He thought he was going to die, but the pirates surrounding the other ship all fell to the ground inexplicably. Kyle also flew with him. He suspected that he was dreaming. Luli was very busy at this time. She liked to read medical books since she was a child, and now she can help the wounded with bandages with doctors. Kyle ignored the wounded, and he didn't have the ability to do so. He pushed the door and entered the cabin. At this time, Sophia's physical strength had also recovered a lot. Because of the devil fruit ability, she didn't suffer any injuries, but she lacked physical strength. "Sister Sophia, how do you feel now? Can you still fight?" "Kyle, what happened?" Sophia thought there was another pirate attack, and Kyle Topi can't stand it anymore, so I came to call her. Kyle waved his hand to signal her not to get excited. "Don't worry, it's safe for now. I want to take Leah to see somewhere else." Kyle also felt that there was no danger now, and he could just go to get some bounties. He was about to go to Shimokatsuki village to learn swordsmanship, and he couldn't do it without money, and it was not right to keep spending Anna's money. Kyle specially asked someone to drive their two ships to a remote corner, with cliffs above, and no pirates came to land here. He could also go to get bounties with peace of mind. "I have no problem, as long as there are not too many people, I can handle it." Sophia looked at Kyle with respect at this time. Not only is he powerful, but he also saved her and Mrs. Anna. And he has such a good relationship with the two ladies, he may be the son-in-law of the family in the future, cough cough. He smiled foolishly unconsciously. Anna didn't object either, and didn't ask Kyle what he was going to do, but just told him to be careful. As for letting Leah follow, there was nothing to worry about. With Kyle's strength, Leah would be safer than staying on the ship. Kyle came to the pirate he had just captured. This guy was the pirate captain who had just commanded a group of minions. This guy was also smart. Seeing many of his minions fall down for no reason, he realized that things were not going well, and immediately prepared to leave with more than 10 people. If it weren't for Kyle's sharp eyes, he might have let this guy run away. "Pa!" Kyle backhanded 2 big slaps. The big man woke up in a daze, and when he opened his eyes, he saw Kyle standing in front of him. You, don't come over. You devil." He had just witnessed Kyle killing his men with his own eyes. Others didn't know, but he knew that Kyle must have used the power of the devil fruit. The ability to kill people silently was terrifying even for him, who was used to seeing life and death. Kyle didn't care about the way he addressed him, but said calmly, "I ask, you answer, understand?" The pirate nodded hurriedly, not daring to underestimate the boy standing in front of him. I understand, sir, you can ask whatever you want, Baron will definitely answer honestly." Kyle was very satisfied to see that he was so tactful. "How many pirates did you come this time? How many have been bountied? Who has the highest bounty?" Baron didn't feel the burden of betraying his teammates, and he told all the news. "We have more than 1,000 people in total, 14 have bounties, I have 5 other captains, and the rest are their subordinates." He took out a neatly folded bounty from his arms. Kyle opened it and took a look. Iron Hammer Baron, bounty 12 million. Chapter 25. After this guy's story, Kyle also knew their plan. The big man in front of him and another captain were responsible for leading people to attack the port, and the other 4 pirate captains led people to attack the town from both sides. Kyle was a little suspicious that this guy was telling him false information to fool him. In the end, it was only after his constant assurance that Kyle reluctantly believed it. Leah on the side pouted in disdain. This guy, a big man over 2 meters tall, has no backbone at all. Baron didn't care about the little girl's disdainful look. His life was almost gone, and backbone was useless. "Leah, brother Kyle will take you to find the treasure." Regardless of whether she agreed or not, Kyle hugged her and soared into the sky, holding a big bag in his hand. Baron was also taken up by Kyle's ability. He still needed him to identify those pirates. Kyle went to the pirate ship docked on the shore first. "Leah, use your observation hockey to see where there are treasures. Bailey, gold are all fine. As long as they are valuable, we want them. That's why Kyle brought her with him. Leah's observation hockey is extremely special. She has the ability to see through things. She can see everything in the cabin across the deck. As for how she got this ability, she didn't know. Okay. Leah was full of fighting spirit, transformed into a treasure-hunting rat, and kept scanning the cabin. There were not many pirates left, and Kyle could easily deal with them. In the East China Sea, where domineering is basically unseen, Kyle can be said to be the top combat force. More than 10 minutes later, the two stared blankly at the more than 900,000 Baileys and 5 gold bars in front of them. Kyle asked, Leah, are you sure you searched carefully? A pirate group only has this little money. Who would believe it if they told others? Kyle, I'm sure, there is only this much money on this ship. Leah pouted unhappily. What? Such a big ship only has this little money, not even enough for them to have a few meals. After a long time of hard work, the ship was not only dirty and messy, but also had no harvest in the end. She was so angry that she raised her foot and kicked Baron's big face. Kyle was also furious and grabbed Baron and slapped him a few times. Damn, you dare to fool me, tell me, where is the treasure hidden? Do you think I'm stupid? Baron was extremely aggrieved. He robbed his Bailey and even despised himself for being poor. This was too bullying. He explained vaguely, My lord, I really didn't lie to you. The money is all spent. You believe me. Seeing the big man's expression, Kyle sighed helplessly. He just wanted to vent his anger. In fact, he believed it after Leah's investigation, but he didn't expect these guys to be so poor. Seeing that the money was not enough to fill the bottom of the bag, Kyle began to doubt his life. Okay, let's go to the next ship. And you, Kyle kicked the big man with his foot. Watch carefully, if one of the other pirates with bounties is missing, you will die. Yes, yes, yes. Don't worry, sir. Baron has given up resistance, and his eyes are almost unable to open after being beaten. He just hopes that the evil star in front of him will not torture him anymore, even if he is sent to the Navy. In this way, the three of them searched all the way, and all 5 pirate ships attacking the port were strolled. Then they went to the pirate ships on the other 2 sides. The other ships were much better, with a few 100,000 Baileys and tens of millions. Not counting other things, there are 50 million Baileys alone. I have to say that the gap between the rich and the poor among pirates is also quite large. Leah was holding a big box, with little stars in her eyes. Look, Kyle, I found a lot of gold, silver and jewelry. We've made a fortune this time. Let me hold it for you first. Kyle stretched out his hand to take the box. But Leah immediately turned around and hid the box in her arms, holding the box weighing hundreds of pounds and not letting go. I don't want it. You must want to take advantage of my treasure. Kyle was furious and slapped her on the butt. You conscienceless guy, you forgot who brought you here, and now you doubt my character. But I found this by my own ability. The little girl's face was full of dissatisfaction. After thinking for a while, she said, Then I'll give you half, no more. Kyle rubbed her head helplessly. My family is not short of money, why do you look like a money grubber? That's different, Leah said seriously. This is the money I earned through my own hard work, which is different from asking my family for money. From now on, I am an adult and can support myself. Kyle laughed dumbly. Okay, if you are tired, leave it to me. After looting all the ships, Kyle took the 2 and a lot of treasures and flew back to their own ship. Put the things aside first, otherwise it will be troublesome if there is a battle later. As soon as they got on the ship, Leah pulled Luli and excitedly told her experience of searching for treasure. Looking at so many Baileys and treasures, Luli pulled Kyle's hand and said pitifully, Kyle, I want to play with you too. It's so boring on the ship. Take me with you. Leah can go out and play with Kyle, but she has to work hard on the ship. She also wants to go out and play. It doesn't matter if there is one more person, Kyle agreed very readily. Great, Luli jumped up happily, hanging on Kyle like a little kangaroo. After all, the two girls are only 10-year-old children. Children of this age must have a strong desire to play, and it is really not practical to let them work quietly. After putting the things away, Kyle held the two sisters in each hand and flew to the battlefield. Baron was also dragged behind by an invisible force. Because of the sudden attack by the pirates, the guards on the island did not have time to organize defense, and the navy station nearby could only hold on. Several pirate captains all led their men to plunder the island. Baron was excluded, of course. This guy was so cowardly, and he was completely unworthy of his big and strong physique. After he briefly described the appearance of the pirates with bounties, Leah searched the scene according to the information he gave. The ending is imaginable. As long as the pirates were found, they would basically be tied up. The small pirates without bounties were not so lucky. Like wheat ears under a sickle, they would fall silently. The rescued townspeople around looked at Kyle with gratitude and fear. One by one, they wanted to step forward to thank him but did not have the courage to step forward. Kyle was too lazy to care about these. A rope was specially found, and more than a dozen pirates were tied into a long string, dragged in the air like a kite. In order to prevent these guys from doing anything tricky, any pirate caught would not escape the fate of being beaten by the three. Of course, some people resisted violently. Unfortunately, they were beaten even more fiercely. Baron was also tied together, but he was not knocked unconscious, and he was needed to identify people. Looking at the captains who were still talking loudly together not long ago, Baron felt mixed emotions at this time. Who is the boy in front of him? Why has he never heard of him in all these years in the East China Sea? Facing Kyle, these people are like ants facing gods, without the slightest resistance. He can fly himself and make others fly, he can break the enemy's neck silently, and he has the ability to freeze the body and make people unable to resist. Each one is beyond his understanding. Kyle's side is particularly smooth, and no pirate with a bounty can escape wherever he goes. He felt like a god now. Wherever he went, there was no one who could match him. Pa! Kyle slapped himself in the face. Zhao, you're getting arrogant after catching some rookies. This is not good. You should be more low-key, otherwise you will fall like Enelu. The two sisters looked at Kyle strangely. I don't know what this guy is doing. Kyle looked in the direction. Chunya's store probably didn't have anything to do. With the Revolutionary Army's Drago there, these little pirates would basically be sending food there. Then he turned around and flew eastward. Chapter 26. The situation on another battlefield was not so smooth. The sound of gunfire, gunshots, roars, and screams filled the entire battlefield. More than a dozen Marines, some holding guns and some holding swords. They were fighting the pirates to the last. A Marine covered his broken arm and asked weakly, Major Belmer, how long will it take for the support to arrive? The brothers can't hold on any longer. The young Belmer watched his former subordinates fall one after another. Those people were still talking and laughing together an hour ago, but now most of them have fallen in a pool of blood. The rest were also injured, and it was unknown when they would fall. Tears fell uncontrollably. He took out the Denden Mushi from his arms with difficulty to make the 13th request for support. As soon as the call was connected, Belmir cried into the microphone. I am Belmir, Colonel Helen, how long will it take for the support to arrive? If they don't come soon, you will have to wait for us to collect our bodies. Major Belmir, hold on, we are now blocked by pirates, believe me, the support will arrive soon. The man on the other side said hoarsely. Both of them could hear the fighting coming from the other side. Belmir put down the Denden Mushi in despair. She knew that they could not wait for rescue, and she and her subordinates would die here. After joining the Navy for so many years, it has always been smooth sailing, but who knew that this time all of them would die in battle? Guiltily looking at the companions who have been with them for many years. Sorry, everyone can't go home this time. More than a dozen people fell into silence, and their hands kept moving. After a long time, someone said, Major Belmere, you don't have to blame yourself. It is our dream to choose to become a Navy. We are very happy to protect civilians. We have no regrets even if we die in battle. Right, Major Belmere, we are honored to be your subordinates. Please lead us to fight for the last time. Belmere was in tears at this time, but there was a smile on her face. Little ones, then kill all these pirates and let them know how powerful the Navy is. Everyone shouted in unison. Yes, Major Belmere. The bullets and artillery fire continued to decrease, and finally all took out swords and went forward to fight. The subordinates fell one after another, until finally, only Belmere was standing. She dragged her weak body and limped through the ruins, with corpses and broken walls everywhere. All the subordinates died, and she was the only one alive. Looking at everything around her, Belmere fell into confusion. Her companions were all dead, so what was the point of living alone? Even if she and her companions died in battle together, it would be fine. Wow tilde tilde wow tilde. At this time, a baby's cry came. Belmere, who was in confusion, turned his head to look. It was a little girl with short blue hair, wearing dirty yellow plaid clothes, with many scratches on her body. The little girl was very strong, even so she didn't cry. There was a baby in her arms, and the crying was made by the baby. Belmere covered his injured shoulder and limped to the little girl. He asked the little girl softly, Don't be afraid, little girl, I am a Navy, where are your family? The little girl did not answer, and her body trembled slightly. Seeing this, Belmere understood, and knelt on the ground helplessly, looking at the dirty little girl. Her heart was full of guilt, because they did not protect these people well. Is the one in your arms your sister? The little girl shook her head. No, I don't know whose child it is. Belmere touched the baby in her arms with her fingers with pity, and seemed to feel the temperature of her fingers. The baby opened his eyes and smiled brightly. Looking at such an innocent smile, Belmere's desperate heart seemed to see the light at this moment. It was like he had found a reason to live. Holding the two of them, he choked and said, Then let's become a family from now on. You can call me Belmere. At this time, Belmere saw 3 figures descending from the sky, with a large group of people tied to them by ropes. He immediately raised his gun and pointed it at the people coming. He was extremely nervous. Being able to fly in the air was the ability of the devil fruit. I don't know what these people are. If they are pirates, it will be a disaster. The people coming were Kyle and the other 2. In order to avoid misunderstanding, Kyle quickly stated his identity. Don't get me wrong, Navy sister. We are good people. We happened to see you when we were destroying the pirates, so we came down to see you. Yes, we are not bad people. Luli and Leah looked at the Navy and the little girl in front of them curiously. Along the way, they caught pirates with bounties and destroyed some pirate minions, but there were too many pirates, and Kyle alone's hard to deal with them all. Besides, there are still many civilians and guards, so it's impossible to use large-scale attack methods. There are so many people injured on the island, and Leah doesn't understand why Kyle would land here. Hearing this, Belmere relaxed his vigilance a little. That's right, these 3 people look only about 10 years old, and they are dressed like this, they don't seem to be pirates at all. He raised his hand and pointed at the more than 10 people tied up behind him. Who are these people? These are all pirates. I happened to meet them. These guys are really hateful. They killed so many people. I really can't stand it, so I just caught these guys. Kyle explained. Luli and Leah looked at Kyle strangely. This guy doesn't even blush when he lies. Belmere was in awe when he heard this, and bowed deeply to Kyle. Thank you for helping to deal with these pirates. I am Belmere, a major of the 120th branch of the Navy. Because of the serious injuries, his body began to shake. Kyle quickly stepped forward to support her and called Luli over. You seem to be seriously injured. Let my sister bandage you first, and we'll talk about other things later. Luli also saw that the Navy sister was seriously injured, and ran over with a small medicine box on her back. Belmir didn't expect that the little girl was actually a doctor, and she didn't resist, allowing Luli to help her treat her wounds. Kyle walked up to the blue-haired little girl, took out a bag of bread from his arms and handed it over. Little sister, what's your name? Kyle was almost certain that she was Nokigo, and the one in her arms should be Nami. I didn't expect it to be so small. Nokigo, Nokigo replied softly. I'll hold it for you first. You're also injured, let that sister help you deal with it. Kyle wanted to take over little Nami. Nokigo didn't agree immediately, but looked at Belmir on the side. After getting confirmation, he handed little Nami to Kyle. He also took the bread. He tore open the wrapping paper and started eating. It seemed that he had been hungry for a long time. Kyle poked little Nami with his hand, and the little guy immediately giggled. The little hand grabbed Kyle's finger. It should be said that it was quite cute. Kyle felt a little distressed when he saw it. If Nami grew up, he didn't know how many years it would take. It was probably unlikely to kidnap her on the ship. Leah also looked at little Nami curiously and poked her face with her hand. So cute, Kyle, let me hug you. Then be careful, don't let her fall. Kyle carefully put little Nami in Leah's hands. I know, you are so nagging. Kyle walked to the other side, where Luli was carefully bandaging Belmir. How are they? Are their injuries serious? Luli wiped the sweat from her forehead and let out a long sigh. The Navy sister is seriously injured. I guess she has to go back to the ship. I don't bring much with me, so I can only bandage her simply now. As for this little sister, there's no problem. She's just a few scratches. Just apply some plaster. Kyle looked at Belmir and asked. What are your plans next? Or do you want to go back to the ship with us first? Belmir thought about it and nodded in agreement. At this moment, the Navy's support has not arrived yet, and she is still carrying 2 children. If she encounters other pirates, she will not have the strength to resist. Thank you very much. He looked at Luli again and bowed deeply. Thank you too, beautiful little sister. Luli quickly helped her up. It would be bad if the wound broke. It's the doctor's job to treat patients. Then let's go back to the ship first. After saying that, Kyle waved his hand, and everyone floated up and flew towards the place where the ship was parked. Chapter 27. It was the first time for Nokigo to experience flying. He held Belmir tightly, afraid that he would fall down if he was not careful. Belmir was actually quite scared. Kyle looked too young. He was flying with so many people at once. I don't know what ability he had. The view in the sky was very good, and he could easily see far away. At this moment, several warships had docked at the port. I think it should be the support of the nearby navy. Many navy ships were catching the fish that slipped through the net everywhere. Occasionally, a few pirates could be seen running for their lives in a panic. Because of the baby, the flight speed was relatively slow this time, and it took more than 10 minutes to get back to the ship. As soon as they got on the ship, Luli took Belmir and the others to find a doctor, and Leah followed with little Nami. Kyle was thinking about how to deal with these pirates. After thinking about it, he just threw them in the corner and waited for the navy to come and hand them over. It also saved him from going to the base to exchange for the bounty. At this time, many crew members gathered around, with admiration and respect in their eyes. Now everyone knows that it was Kyle who saved them. They didn't expect that the little guy who often trained with them would be so powerful. Brother Kyle, you are so powerful, but you hid it from us. You really don't treat us as friends. Right, Brother Kyle, we were worried about your safety when the pirates first came. But thanks to Kyle, otherwise we would probably be fed to sharks by the pirates now, ha ha ha. A group of people gathered together and talked and laughed. After getting along for several years, everyone was already very familiar with each other. At the same time, they were also happy that Kyle had a strong power. A group of people were noisy, and time passed. About half an hour later, a warship slowly sailed in. There were the words of the 120th branch of the Navy on it. Anna hurriedly took people to greet it. As a businessman, she often needed help from the Navy. Besides, the one who came this time was a colonel. Helen came up and saluted deeply to Anna and her group. "I am the colonel of the 120th Marine Branch, Helen. Thank you for saving my men. As legal citizens, this is what we should do." "Colonel Helen, you don't have to do this." Anna seemed a little uncomfortable. After all, the people were saved by Kyle, and they did nothing. "Take the Navy into the cabin." After meeting Belmare, Colonel Helen was relieved and learned everything that happened, including the 2 children she saved and the fact that she was saved by Kyle and others. Belmare was deeply shocked by the annihilation of the team, and he asked to resign at that time. And he also asked Anna to let her travel with the fleet. This is also because she learned that Anna's fleet would pass through her hometown, Kokoja village. Belmare now just wants to return to her hometown and raise her 2 children. Anna agreed very readily, which was not a difficult thing for her. Helen understood Belmare's mood at the moment. When she looked at Nohigo and the baby in her arms, she sighed helplessly and agreed to her request. At the same time, he was also very curious about Kyle and the others, especially Kyle. From Belmare's description, it can be seen that he is a powerful devil fruit user. After leaving the cabin, Helen asked to meet Kyle. Anna did not agree immediately but asked Kyle's opinion first. Kyle didn't care. Anyway, everyone knew him, so it didn't matter if they met. When Helen really saw Kyle, she was completely shocked. Who would have thought that the person who saved his subordinates was just a boy of about 10 years old, and he also heard that Kyle had caught many powerful pirates. "Brother Kyle, I wonder if you are interested in joining the Navy. Let's protect justice on the sea together." Helen didn't beat around the bush. His purpose of meeting Kyle was to hope that he would join the Navy. He didn't say nice words to coax him because he was young. If he joined the Navy, it would be certain that Kyle would enter the headquarters of the Navy in the future with his strength. Seeing Kyle's age now, Helen hopes that he will join the Navy even more. With such a strong power at such a young age, it is possible for him to become a general officer in the future. And judging from the boy's behavior, he is also righteous. This is also what he is most satisfied with. There are many powerful people, but few people who are powerful and righteous. Kyle secretly complained. After being reborn, of course they pursue freedom. Who would still work hard? Besides, even if he wants to be a Navy, he will go to the headquarters, not the branch. It will take a long time for him to climb to a high position. "Uncle, I respect your Navy very much. You can disregard your life and death for the sake of civilians, just like Major Belmare." Helen was delighted. "So you agree to join the Navy?" Kyle shook his head. "Uncle, you misunderstood. Although I admire people like you, I am just a layman and don't have such great ideals as you. I won't fight for irrelevant people. Maybe I will take action to solve the evil people, but I will only do my best for the justice in my heart." Helen thought that it was Belmare's incident that made him prejudiced against the Navy. "Brother Kyle, you must have misunderstood. The Navy does not stipulate that you need to use your life to protect others. You can choose to retreat when you encounter an enemy that you cannot deal with. And the Navy will not ask you to deal with those opponents that you cannot defeat." "I know," Kyle said. "I mainly like a free life and don't like being restrained. There are many interesting places in this sea, and I want to see them." Helen was silent. He thought that a boy like Kyle would definitely have a passionate side. It should be easy to invite him to join the Navy, but he was wrong. He had seen many people like Kyle. A boy who yearns for freedom also has his own justice in his heart. Many pirates are like this at the beginning. But he couldn't say anything more. After all, Kyle had just helped the Navy. Colonel Helen left. He took the bunch of pirates with him when he left. "Brother Kyle, I hope you can stick to the justice in your heart. The Navy welcomes you to join at any time. By the way, I will send someone to deliver the bounty of these pirates to you." After the Navy ship left, Anna and the others did not ask much. Kyle could handle this matter by himself. After experiencing the pirates, there are still many things to deal with on the ship. Fortunately, there was not much loss of ships and cargo, which did not affect the normal voyage. After working for several hours, Kyle was already very hungry. Using abilities for a long time consumes a lot of physical strength. Anyway, there was nothing for them to do on the ship at this time, so it was a good opportunity to see how Chunya's family was doing and have a meal. There were several people from the Revolutionary Army there, so it was not an exaggeration to say that it was the safest place on the island. After arriving at the hotel, they found that Dragon had left. Kyle guessed that it was because the Navy was catching pirates everywhere, and they were also wanted by the world government. It would probably be a lot of trouble to stay here. Seeing the three people, Chunya excitedly greeted them. "Brother Kyle, Sister Luli, Sister Leah, I'm so glad you're okay." The three little girls hugged each other directly. "It must be okay, didn't I tell you that we are very powerful?" Leah put her hands on her hips and looked like a little peacock. She took Chunya and began to tell her about the experience of catching pirates just now, and occasionally exaggerated how great she was. Of course, she didn't feel comfortable to take all the credit on herself, and mainly talked about Kyle. The little girl felt like she was listening to a story. Her eyes were full of stars, and she would exclaim from time to time. She saw with her own eyes that Brother Kyle took his two sisters to the sky, so she didn't doubt that some of what Leah said was a bit outrageous. Kyle felt his heart was about to melt when he was looked at with admiration by such a cute little loli. Seeing that his daughter was having fun, Uncle Eric didn't disturb her and went to the kitchen to prepare food by himself. After just experiencing the pirate attack, there were no other guests in the small restaurant except Kyle and his friends. Kyle simply invited Chunya to have dinner together. It just so happened that he also had something to talk about. Chapter 28. During the meal, Kyle casually asked, "Chunya, are you interested in going out to sea with us in the future? Let's go see this beautiful sea together." Chunya pointed at herself in surprise, with uncertainty in her tone. "Brother Kyle, can I go out to sea with you in the future? But I'm weak, I can't do anything except cooking." Kyle nodded seriously to confirm. "Chunya is not weak, the food you cook is delicious, we have never eaten better food than your family." Kyle did not forget his purpose. You can lack anything on the sea, but you can't lack a chef. Even a navigator can't compare, at most he can just tow the boat and fly. He can cook, but it's just barely edible. As for Luli and Leah, forget it, they have been served by special chefs since childhood, and it's just a pipe dream to expect them to cook. In the future, we must find a reliable chef for meals. Luli and Leah also showed interest. Although they had only known each other for 2 days, the three of them had already become good friends. The three little girls were reluctant to part ways when they thought about the fact that they would be separated tomorrow. But if they went to sea together in the future, they could be together forever. Leah took her hand and said excitedly, "Yes, why didn't I think of this? I heard from Kyle that there are many interesting places on the sea." "Yeah," Luli also nodded to confirm. Then the two girls told Chunya the story that Kyle had told them. How could the 10-year-old Chunya resist such temptation? She listened to the two people's stories with longing in her eyes. Her dream was to travel the sea, enjoy all the beautiful scenery, and then make the most delicious food in the world. She knew that her dream would probably be difficult to realize, and she didn't have the ability to survive on the sea. Now that she got Kyle's invitation, she suddenly saw the possibility of realizing her dream. But when she thought that if she went to sea, her father would be the only one left. Mom has left Dad. If she goes to sea, Dad will be very sad. After hesitating for a while, Chunya shook her head and looked at Kyle apologetically. "Thank you, Brother Kyle, I also want to go with you to see the sea, but I can't leave Dad alone, sorry. The sisters were disappointed when they heard this. That's a pity. Kyle also felt it was a pity and didn't insist. At this time, Uncle Eric came out of the kitchen and put the last few dishes on the table. It seemed that Kyle and the others had just spoken loudly, and he heard it. Especially when he heard the sentence, "You can't leave Dad alone," he almost cried. He touched Chunyi's head lovingly and said gently, "Chunyi doesn't have to give up your dream for me, it will make Dad feel guilty." Chunyi's face turned red. She didn't expect that her father would hear such words, but she still shook her head and refused. "I want to stay with Dad." Eric ignored his daughter's words and looked at Kyle and said, "Dorigu said you are a good boy, and the two girls are not ordinary people. I believe what he said, and thank you for being willing to be Chunya's friend. Maybe you don't know who Dorag is. He is the one with a hood who talked to you yesterday." Kyle wanted to say that he knew him. "Uncle, you don't have to thank me for this. Chunya is very good and we like her too." But Dorag actually praised him, and this uncle actually knew Dorag. "No, Uncle, are you really just the owner of a small restaurant?" Kyle couldn't help but doubt the identity of this uncle. He could see the Revolutionary Army here for 2 days, and there was this restaurant that was deliberately built. He said whose restaurant was so big. This identity is confirmed. The two sisters also nodded in agreement with Kyle's words. Uncle Eric continued. "It will be very dangerous for Chunye to follow me. I think you will wait until you are adults to go to sea. I hope you can take Chunye with you. During this time, I will teach her cooking skills." Chunye felt that her father was hiding something from her, and it was a very dangerous thing. She seemed to be a burden. Kyle also had a guess. Uncle Eric should be afraid that his identity as a Revolutionary Army would bring danger to Chunye. That's right, the Revolutionary Army was in the early stage of development and was often beaten and hiding. Kyle readily agreed. "Uncle, don't worry, we will come to pick her up when the time comes." Eric nodded with satisfaction. "I will tell Chunye here." After Kyle and the other two left, Chunye hugged Eric and asked in a crying voice, "Dad, are you hiding something from me? I don't care about dreams, really." Eric touched his daughter's head kindly. His daughter was very sensible, and her sensibility made him sad. "Silly child, everyone has dreams. Dad has dreams, and you have dreams too. Do you remember what Mom said when she was dying? Live happily and joyfully. Take your dreams to see this sea, it's beautiful and wonderful." Woo woo woo. The little girl burst into tears. "Don't cry, it won't look good if you cry like a little cat." Eric gently wiped away his daughter's tears. "Pull out a square wooden box from a hidden corner. Today is Chunya's birthday, I hope you like this gift." Hearing the birthday gift, Chunye stopped crying immediately, looked at the wooden box, and asked with a frown. "What is the gift?" "Something many people dream of." "What is that?" Chunye took the box and opened it directly. A dark short knife lay quietly in it. Chunye took out the short knife and waved it casually. Crack! With just a light stroke, the wooden box broke into 2 halves. "What a sharp knife!" Eric patted his daughter's shoulder. "This knife has been passed down for a long time. I wanted to give it to you when you grow up, but since I chose to let you go to sea, I will give it to you now. Remember, this knife is the inheritance of our family. It exists for cooking. Remember not to disgrace it." Chunye nodded heavily while holding the short knife. Navy Headquarters. Marineford. Marshal's Office. Zhangguo held the latest information from the 120th branch of the East China Sea in his hand, and his brows were furrowed. He didn't expect these guys to dare to attack the member states. Fortunately, it didn't cause much impact. These bastards all blame Roger, that bastard, for saying such words before his death. Since Roger's death, the number of pirates around the world has exploded. The Navy's power was already weak. Originally, it was planned to enter the New World after controlling the 4 seas. But now, let alone the New World, the various incidents in the four seas and the first half of the Grand Line are enough to keep the Navy busy. Snap, snap, snap. The sound of eating senbei rang out in the quiet office. Sengoku couldn't stand it anymore and slapped the table. Garp, you bastard, can you lower your voice? Look at what this is. He slapped a piece of intelligence in front of him. Garp picked up the document and saw that it recorded that Monkey D. Dragon appeared in the Kingdom of Oiko, which happened to be the time when the pirates attacked the allied countries. Then he threw it on the table. Ahahaha, Sengoku, don't worry, that kid won't do such a thing. After that, he continued to eat senbei. Veins popped out of Sengoku's forehead, wondering how such a person could become a Navy hero. He stepped forward and grabbed the senbei and poured it all into his mouth. He slapped a document on Garp. When you return to the East Sea, take a look at this little guy. If possible, invite him to join the Navy. Chapter 29. Early the next morning. The fleet sailed smoothly under the hot gazes of many people. The mayor of the town wanted to invite the group to a banquet to express his gratitude. If it weren't for Kyle, the town would have suffered a great loss. In the end, Anna declined. The pirates had caused such a big incident, and the townspeople needed time to rebuild their homes at this time. They couldn't disturb them too much. Moreover, the caravan had already loaded all the goods, and today was the scheduled sailing time. For the caravan, time is money. I don't know if it was intentional by the Navy, but Kyle became famous throughout the East China Sea. Early in the morning, Kyle was cursing on the boat, holding the latest newspaper in his hand. Damn, these Navy are shit, aren't they deliberately harming me? The latest issue of the newspaper clearly stated that in the pirate incident of the Kingdom of Oiko, Kyle, who was only 10 years old, provided great help to the Navy. Because of his help, the Navy successfully eliminated all the pirates. A photo was also attached. A boy was holding two little girls, and a bunch of people were flying in the sky behind him. The Navy also gave Kyle a middle school title, the Headless Man. This was also based on the display of Kyle's ability. This time, many pirates had their necks broken by an unknown force. The Navy praised Kyle's behavior in the newspapers, saying that he was a young genius, a future star, a pirate nemesis, etc. Kyle was so angry, and he suspected that it was because he rejected the invitation of the Navy yesterday. Isn't this a sure way to attract hatred? Don't join the Navy, sure, then we will increase your popularity, and there will always be pirates who don't know how to live or die to find trouble with you. Kyle really guessed it right. Colonel Helen reported to the Navy headquarters overnight. The headquarters felt that a powerful person like Kyle would always be a hidden danger if he didn't join the Navy. It would be better to take the opportunity to praise Kyle's achievements, so that he can be pushed to the opposite side of the pirates, and at the same time, some pirates in the East China Sea will behave themselves. The only thing that made Kyle feel good was the Navy had sent the bounty to the ship early, and the bounty for the 15 pirates was a total of 120 million Baileys. All of them were Baileys with a face value of 10,000, filling several large suitcases. After thinking about it, Kyle only accepted 50 million and gave the rest to Anna. He was about to go to Shimotsuki village, and it was useless to bring too much Bailey, but it would cause unnecessary trouble. 50 million should be enough for the three of them to live on. Even if it is not enough, it doesn't matter. At most, they can go out to sea to catch pirates for bounties. Besides, Kyle has lived in Anna's house for so many years, and he usually spends the most. If it weren't for his big family, he would probably be broke. The remaining 70 million can be regarded as living expenses for these years. Anna refused at first. In her eyes, Kyle was like her child. It was normal to spend money for her child. She never thought that she needed anything in return from Kyle. However, because Kyle insisted, she had no choice but to accept it. She said that she would save it for him first and ask him for it whenever he needed it. The ship sailed very fast and there were no other incidents along the way. 2 days later, the ship saw the outline of an island not far away. According to Belmer's introduction, this island was her hometown, named Zumida Island. It was also the island where the Kokoja village was located. At the port of Kokoja village, several fishermen were sorting out their fishing nets and found two ships coming here in the distance. There is a ship, it should be a merchant ship. A fisherman opened his eyes and looked carefully, but the distance was too far to see the flag on the ship. However, in order to prevent it from being a pirate ship, several people went to the village to report. Soon, Sheriff Aegean brought a large group of people to the port. Aegean took out the telescope and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the familiar red leaf logo. Don't worry, everyone, it's the ship of the Red Leaf Chamber of Commerce. When the merchant ship arrived at the port. At this time, a large group of villagers had gathered at the port. The grand ceremony made those who didn't know think that some important person had come. They were all familiar with the logo of the Red Leaf Chamber of Commerce and basically came here every year. At this time, the villagers could not only sell their own goods, but also buy some supplies that were not available on the island. But when the villagers saw a familiar figure, they couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise. Hey, isn't this Belle Mel? Your injuries, what happened? They were all familiar with this bad girl who used to be in the village, and later joined the navy. But why did she come back with the merchant ship now, and what about the bandages wrapped around her body? What happened? At this time, the village sheriff Aegean squeezed through the crowd and ran over. Belmer, what's wrong with your injury? Didn't you join the navy? What happened? Looking at the blue-haired little girl who was not with Belle, and the baby in her arms. Aegean suddenly had a bold guess. I felt my heart was about to break. Belmer, you actually have children, and two. Who is the father of the child? Why didn't he come back with you? The villagers also began to exclaim, the amount of information was a bit too much. Belmer's forehead suddenly bulged with blue veins. Raised his fist and hammered Aegean in the face. What nonsense are you talking about? Aegean, who was punched, was not angry. He rubbed his eyes and asked a few people to send Belmer to the old village doctor in the village. The old doctor was the only doctor in the village. Belmer seemed to have been treated by a doctor, but it wouldn't hurt to go to the village doctor again. After a while, Aegean clapped his hands and realized that they were just busy talking about Belmer and almost ignored the god of wealth, Mrs. Anna. If they didn't come to the village to trade in the future because of the poor hospitality, they would be miserable. He quickly greeted a few people to enter the village. And Loudon took a group of people to count the materials that the villagers needed to sell or buy. On the way, Aegean also learned about the course of events and was relieved to learn that the two children were only rescued by Belmer on the battlefield. At the same time, he was also worried about Belmer's experience. In order to welcome everyone and to thank them for saving Belmer, the villagers held a banquet. The village was developing so-so, there were no wealthy families, and they couldn't offer too good things to entertain. They were just some simple meals and various fruits, among which oranges were the most. After all, the most abundant fruit in the whole village was oranges. Anna and her group didn't dislike it, mainly because the villagers were too enthusiastic. At the end of the banquet, Luli and Leah were still holding 2 large bags of oranges in their hands. Belmer invited several people to her home. She had simply cleaned up the house when everyone held the banquet. But Anna refused. Belmer was still injured and needed to rest well, so they couldn't disturb him. And Belmer had 2 children to take care of. The ship would not stay for too long, and there were not many people in the village, so it wouldn't take too long. They had to rush to the next island as soon as possible. Belmer saw this and no longer insisted. Before leaving, Kyle pinched little Nami. Then he said to Nokigo, "Listen to Belmer, we will come to play again in the future." Nokigo nodded obediently, with reluctance in his eyes. "That's a deal, brother Kyle, don't lie to me." Kyle put several large bags of things in front of Nokigo, which contained some clothes, toys, snacks, etc. The clothes and toys were all bought in the kingdom of Oiko. At that time, I thought that if I went to Kokoja village, I could give it to Nami and the others, so that I could build a good relationship with them when they were young. This way, it would be easier to invite them to the ship when they grow up. Of course, there are more reasons. It doesn't matter to him whether they get on the ship or not. I just hope that this family can live happily forever and don't have to suffer the original hardships. Chapter 30. As for the Arlong pirates behind, if they meet them, they can just kill them. May you have a happy childhood. Kyle waved and boarded the ship. The ship slowly sailed away from the port, and Belmere held her two daughters on the shore and kept waving goodbye. On the ship, Leah pounced on Kyle and scratched him. Damn Kyle, you actually gave away all my snacks, what should I eat? Damn. Hey, don't scratch me, I'll buy you some when the ship reaches the next island. Kyle hugged the little girl and comforted her with a smile. Anyway, with her current physique, her attack of this level is at most a tickle. It's fragrant and soft, and it's quite enjoyable. HMPH. No, I want snacks now. Leah pouted and ignored Kyle's deception. Now the ship has sailed, where can I buy you snacks? Come down quickly, there are so many people watching. The crew who were watching the excitement turned their heads aside and covered their mouths with laughter. Just see it. Leah didn't care at all. Suddenly, her eyes rolled around and she pretended to be generous and said, "You can ask me to forgive you." Well, then what? Looking at the little girl's appearance, Kyle didn't know what bad idea she was thinking. You agree to one condition. What condition? I haven't thought about it yet, anyway, it's a very small condition, just say whether you agree or not. Kyle agreed without hesitation. Okay, I agree, don't hang on me. Although he is only 10 years old physically, his mind is not, he still wants to be a human being. Seeing Kyle agreed, Leah jumped off him and secretly gave Luli an okay gesture. Kyle certainly noticed their little movements, but he didn't investigate further, probably just children playing around. Most of the time, it's boring when the ship is sailing on the sea, so it's nice to have an active atmosphere. Life began to calm down after a while. Kyle still insisted on practicing every day. However, the space on the ship is limited, and only simple swordsmanship and physical training can be carried out every day. There were several waves of pirates during the journey, but they fled as soon as they saw the flag on the ship. A person's reputation is like a tree's shadow. Many people are skeptical about Kyle's record, but no one is willing to verify it. About 10 days have passed. The ship finally arrived at Shimotsuki village. This is also the first time for the merchant ship to come here. Because it passed several small islands on the way, most of the time it would trade goods, so it took a lot of time. Looking around, the island is surrounded by beaches on 3 sides and mountains on the other side. There is no port on the shore, and in order to avoid running aground, the ship is not too close to the seaside. At this time, several people hugged each other reluctantly. Kyle, take good care of them and take good care of yourself. Don't worry, Kyle nodded gently. Anna rubbed the heads of the 2 women and whispered. Remember to listen to Kyle in everything, don't make trouble, understand? Luli nodded obediently. Mom, I'm grown up, okay, why should I listen to Kyle? Leah pouted unhappily, feeling that she was underestimated. Anna looked at this little daughter helplessly. This girl has been strong since she was a child. If it weren't for Kyle, she really didn't feel at ease leaving her alone outside. Okay, Arlia is already an adult, so take care of yourself and don't let Mom worry, Luli is the same. I know, Leah said pretending to be indifferent, but her eyes were a little red when she turned her head. Kyle took out a booklet and handed it to Sophia quietly. Sister Sophia, there are some things you may need in here. Remember to practice more often. The sea is so chaotic, your strength is not good enough, remember not to spread it around. During this period, Kyle sorted out a booklet, which recorded the knowledge about the Navy's 6 styles, physical skills, and domineering. Sophia's devil fruit form is very suitable for practicing physical skills. When Kyle is away, she will probably have to protect Anna. Since Kyle's reputation has spread, he is also afraid that someone will go to trouble Anna and the others. I can only increase Sophia's strength. I don't know if she will become a Kung Fu Panda in the future. I am a little excited when I think about it. However, Kyle still warned Sophia not to forget to exercise her will while exercising her physique. When the fruit of the animal type ability user awakens, there are risks. If the will is not firm, it may directly turn into a beast. He remembered the monsters in the City of Advancement. Although they are powerful, they basically do not have their own consciousness. In simple terms, it was taken over by the fruit. Kyle didn't expect her to awaken the fruit. He just said this to remind her. Who knows what will happen in the future? Sophia was very upset. She was almost 20 years old and was being taught by a 10-year-old child. But she had to admit it. Kyle was better than her and knew more than her. She slowly opened the booklet and frowned. She had never heard of many things. She knew the Navy's 6 styles, but wasn't it a secret of the Navy? How could Kyle know it? And what was this domineering? Although she didn't understand many things, she knew it must be a very precious thing. Since Kyle didn't say it, she wouldn't ask. She hugged Kyle in her arms. Thank you, little Kyle, remember to take care of yourself. You too, Kyle suddenly said. Sister Sophia, can you remove the little word? It's awkward to hear you call me little Kyle, little Kyle. No, because you were already small when I changed your clothes. If you want to remove the little word, wait until you grow up. Sophia smiled slightly and moved her little hand. Kyle shuddered. He cursed the maid secretly. Why did she start to fight? Smelling the fragrance drifting away from his nose, Kyle suddenly became reluctant to leave. I don't know the true face of Mount Lu, just because I am in this mountain. Ahem. It took a while for Kyle to reluctantly leave the gentle land. After everyone said goodbye reluctantly, Kyle flew to the beach with the 2 women with tearful eyes. The 2 ships also started to sail. Kyle gently helped the 2 women wipe their tears. Don't cry, I'll just fly you back when you miss home. Really, really? Both girls looked at Kyle eagerly. I know Kyle can fly, but can he fly so far at once? Of course, when have I ever lied to you? In fact, Kyle didn't know, he had never flown too far. But it shouldn't be a difficult task, as long as the 3 of them are strong enough, they can probably fly back in a few minutes. Anyway, let's deal with the present first, and we'll talk about the future later. Walk all the way in. This is also their first time here, and they don't know where the field is. Uncle, how do I get to Master Koshiro's dojo? The uncle who was working saw the 3 children asking for directions, and he didn't doubt anything, probably going to the dojo to learn swordsmanship again. He pointed in a direction. Follow this road, it's about 10 minutes away. Thank you, uncle. Following the path, the 3 of them soon saw a building with a completely different style from other places. Blue bricks, white tiles, wooden structures. Strong Japanese-style buildings. There are many square fields around. Kyle is not surprised by this, as the style of Wano country is still continued here. Chapter 31. Decades ago. Shimotsuki Kozaburo led some warriors of the Shimotsuki family to go out of Wano country for adventure. When passing by here, they found that local bandits were rampant. They helped the locals to deal with these bandits and chose to stay here. And established Shimotsuki village here. Later, Shimotsuki Kozaburo fell in love with a local girl and gave birth to Shimotsuki Koshiro soon after. He is now the owner of the Isshin Dojo. The sound of training can be heard from a long distance away. Seeing 3 strangers, many children looked over unconsciously. Most of them were half-grown kids, some of whom had runny noses. Kyle took the 2 sisters directly into the gate of the dojo. Kyle spoke to the little boy closest to him. Little brother, is the owner of the gym home? We are here to learn swordsmanship. So you are here to learn swordsmanship. Master Koshiro is in the house. I will take you there. The little boy wiped his nose with his sleeve and led the three people to the inner room. Entering the house, Kyle finally saw the most famous swordsman in the East China Sea. Shimotsuki Koshiro. Wearing training clothes and glasses. A calm and gentle face. There was also a little girl sitting next to him, about 2 or 3 years old. This should be Kuina, who is probably only 3 years old at this time. Kyle was a little nervous when he saw Koshiro. This squinting eye, maybe he is really a hidden boss. Looking at the three people, Koshiro asked. Who are you? My name is Kyle, and they are my sisters, Luli and Leah, from Maple Leaf Island. I heard that there is a very powerful swordsman in Shimotsuki village, and we are here to learn swordsmanship. Kyle carefully introduced the identities of the three people. Koshiro seemed to remember something, and picked up a newspaper on the table to compare with the three people in front of him. Are you the three who helped the Navy solve the pirates in the kingdom of Oiko? Kyle glanced at it, and it was the newspaper about them solving the pirates. Yes, Kyle nodded in acknowledgement. Your strength seems to be not weak, why do you still want to learn swordsmanship? Koshiro was really curious about this. From the newspaper, Kyle's strength is ranked among the best in the entire East China Sea, and his swordsmanship is not yet famous to this extent. Kyle shook his head. I think you should understand that I am a devil fruit ability user, but the ability is only an external thing after all, and strengthening oneself is the foundation. Koshiro nodded with satisfaction. Having strength but not being proud, this kind of mentality is a good seedling for learning swordsmanship. Okay, I will teach you swordsmanship in the future. You can choose to live in the restaurant or rent a house in the village. You will get familiar with it today, and the teaching will start tomorrow. Okay, Master Koshiro. Kyle took out 5 million berries and some local specialties from other islands and put them on the table in front of Koshiro. The tuition fee doesn't need to be so much. Koshiro waved his hand and refused. The most tuition fee he collected was only a few 100,000, and this was still including the food expenses. If you don't know, you will think that he is buying a gym by collecting 5 million berries at once. Kyle pushed the things back again. Master Koshiro, please accept it first. My 2 sisters and I are very good eaters. There is also food expenses in it. I guess it will not be enough in the future. I will make up for it when the time comes. Leah also spoke at the right time. Yes, Master Koshiro, we need tens of thousands of baileys for a meal. Kuina on the side opened her mouth wide. Can you really eat so much at this age? Seeing this, Koshiro no longer refused, and he would just push the extra ones to them in the future. Kyle took the 2 girls out of the gym. He did not choose to live in the gym, but went to the town to see if there were any houses for sale. Koshiro was from the Shimotsuki family, a big family in Wano country, so his strength must be strong, and he probably has observation haki. He has a lot of secrets, so it's better to be safe. After wandering around for a while, the 3 finally found a house for sale. It was a 2-story Western-style building with complete furniture and a small yard. The owner of the house seemed to be a businessman who often went out to sea. This time he came back and happened to meet someone who wanted to buy his house. The villagers of Shimotsuki village were very simple, and they didn't ask for a high price because Kyle and the other 2 were young. After completing all the formalities, Kyle finally had a home of his own in this world. The previous owner often went out to sea, and no one cleaned the house, so many places were covered with dust. The 2 sisters were very motivated. They found rags and mops and started cleaning. Kyle was not idle either, and controlled more than 10 tools with telekinesis to clean the house carefully inside and outside. The 3 of them worked from morning to afternoon. The 2 sisters collapsed on the sofa like salted fish that had lost their dreams, but they couldn't stop smiling. Kyle, this is our home from now on. You are the male owner, and my sister and I are the female owners. Luli slapped Leah in annoyance, her face slightly red. What male owner? Female owner? Stupid Leah, what nonsense are you talking about? Leah looked at her sister in confusion. Am I wrong? This is a home for the three of us. Kyle is a boy, so of course he is the male owner. My sister and I are girls, so we are the female owners. I'm too lazy to explain to you. Idiot. Luli held her forehead, too lazy to pay attention to her silly sister. After a short rest, several people went out to buy some daily necessities in the town and familiarize themselves with the new environment. It was not until it got dark that the three of them returned home with several large bags of things. Dinner was naturally made by Kyle. He was also a person in his previous life. His cooking was not so delicious, but at least it was okay. In short, he was much better than the two sisters. These two guys couldn't even live a simple life. After dinner, the three of them lay comfortably on the sofa. Luli leaned sideways and asked, Kyle, how long will we stay here? I can't say how long it will be. It depends on when we can practice to become sword masters. And you too, at least you have to practice 2-color domineering and the 6 styles of the Navy. Kyle thought for a while and said, the outside world is so dangerous. He really doesn't dare to go out to sea without some strength. Don't think that he is now thriving in the East China Sea, but he can only bully those who don't have domineering power, and there are not many people with special abilities. If it were in the Grand Line or the New World, there would be all kinds of people with special abilities, and you might be killed inexplicably. What is a sword master? Is it like the Golden Lion you mentioned before? Hearing about something related to swords, Leah immediately became interested. A swordsman is someone who can use his weapon to send out a flying slash, killing his opponent from a distance. Kyle explained. As for the Golden Lion, that kind of existence is already higher than a swordsman, and we are still far from it now. Little stars immediately appeared in Leah's eyes. Flying slash. Killing enemies from the sky. It sounds very cool. When I think about cultivating to this level in the future, will I be famous all over the world? By then, I think I will be able to beat Kyle. I will beat him up every day. Let him bully me all day long. He. As I thought about it, I laughed foolishly. Kyle and Luli looked at me in confusion. It was already late, and the three of them returned to their respective rooms. They had to get up early to go to the gym tomorrow. Midnight. Kyle was dazed and found 2 soft bodies crawling into his bed. He lifted the quilt and looked down. Luli, Leah, why are you running here instead of sleeping in your room? Chapter 32. The little girl pursed her lips and blinked her big eyes. Kyle, I'm afraid to sleep alone. Kyle couldn't help but burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, didn't you say you wanted to be a great swordsman? How could a great swordsman be afraid to sleep alone? I don't care, I want to sleep with you. It just so happens that you promised me something not long ago. I didn't think about it at the time, but now I have thought about it. Leah didn't care about his ridicule and curled up with a small pillow. Like a caterpillar, she kept wriggling and slowly came over. Okay, Kyle looked at Luli and asked. What about you? Don't tell me you are also afraid to sleep alone. Luli's face was a little pale at this time, and she curled up and tried to lean on Kyle. But Kyle didn't see it because the light was not turned on. Leah told me a ghost story, saying that there is an evil ghost that eats children and will take people away at night. I'm scared. It's all fake. Don't listen to Leah's nonsense. Kyle didn't say anything more. The 2 girls probably just came to a strange place and lacked a sense of security. After all, they were only 10-year-old children. Go to bed quickly, you have to get up early tomorrow. The 2 girls leaned on both sides and said, The next morning, Kyle felt weak in his hands, his chest was stuffy, and his breathing was a little difficult. Damn, am I experiencing sleep paralysis? Could it be that Leah is right? Is there really a ghost in this place? When he opened his eyes, he saw a little foot in front of his nose. He wanted to move it away, but his arm felt numb. He turned around and saw someone holding one of his arms, and Luli was still lying on his chest. Leah had one foot on her face, and the other foot was held in Luli's arms. So it was the little loli who pressed the bed. Kyle struggled to get up and slightly moved his sore arms. Then there were 2 slaps. The 2 sisters screamed, covered their little butts and sat up. Ouch Tilda, it hurts. Kyle, why did you hit me? Kyle's eyes glared. You still have the nerve to ask. Get up quickly, we'll go to the gym later. He got out of bed and washed up. The 2 sisters also went back to their room to change clothes with grievances. After washing up and eating some breakfast, the 3 of them rushed to the gym. In the gym. I saw you brought swords yesterday, so I think you should know some swordsmanship. Try to attack me. Koshiro planned to see the strength of the 3 first, so that he could consider the progress of the next teaching. Kyle nodded in response. He was very distressed that his swordsmanship had not improved. He hoped to find the answer here. Holding the bamboo sword, he recalled the moves he had trained in his daily training. Kyle raised his hand and chopped down without any fancy moves. The bamboo sword chopped towards Koshiro fiercely with the sound of breaking wind. Koshiro raised his sword to block and easily blocked Kyle's attack. Kyle was not discouraged when he saw that his attack had no effect at all. He raised his sword and launched a new attack. Slash, chop, lift, and stab forward. All the moves he had learned were as smooth as flowing water. Unfortunately, they were all easily blocked by Koshiro. After a test, Koshiro put away the bamboo sword and nodded with satisfaction. Not bad, your basic skills are very solid, your movements are standard enough, and your strength is not bad. If I guess correctly, you should have mastered the domineering spirit at a preliminary level. Yes, Kyle did not deny it and asked the most important question of his trip. Then Master, why do I seem to have reached a bottleneck in my swordsmanship and never made any new progress? He almost doubted that he had no talent for swordsmanship. You should have learned swordsmanship from a book yourself. Koshiro did not answer, but asked Kyle. How do you know? Koshiro smiled and explained. From your attack, I saw that it was just a form without spirit. It's a pity that you don't have a teacher to explain it to you. Haha, I have to say that you are indeed a genius in learning swordsmanship. You can practice to this level by yourself. Please teach me, teacher. Kyle was immediately impressed. It seemed that he had come to the right place. Koshiro smiled and said, of course, since you have become my student, I will definitely teach you with my heart. I ask you, what is a sword in your eyes? Kyle didn't know how to answer for a while, and thought for a while and said. The sword is a murder weapon, a killing weapon. Koshiro smiled and shook his head, and wiped out a white long knife from his waist. You are right, but a sword can also convey the swordsman's emotions. A sword is not a dead object. It can understand the master's mood and thoughts. After saying that, he casually threw a piece of white paper into the air. Koshiro took out the Wado Ikimanji in his hand and slashed directly at the falling white paper. The sword cut through the white paper, but the white paper still fell to the ground intact. Kyle, you must remember that there are swordsmen in this world who can't cut anything, but this kind of swordsman can cut steel and anything else. Retracting the long sword, Koshiro looked at Kyle gently. The strongest sword is the one that can protect what you want to protect, cut what you want to cut, and not hurt what you don't want to cut. Kyle remembered that these words seemed to be taught to Zoro in the future. I don't know if I understand it or not, anyway, I think it's awesome. Brushing out the long sword from his back, Kyle held his breath and concentrated, then he stretched out a sword and aimed it at a stone in the yard. Ding! A sound of fine iron and stone colliding came out. Kyle, Luli and Leah, who were watching from a distance, couldn't help laughing. Holding their stomachs, they laughed so hard that they couldn't breathe. It wasn't until Kyle's murderous eyes saw them that the 2 girls forced themselves to hold back, their faces flushed. No way, what about the promised iron cutting? Why didn't I have an epiphany? It's no different from before. Kyle immediately fell into autism. Koshiro held his forehead, wondering if he had praised too early just now, and stopped Kyle from trying again. The mind moves with the heart, and the body moves with the will. Remember to feel the sword in your hand with your heart, feel your breathing, and control the sword's cutting ability through your mind. This time Kyle finally felt that he had understood. Close your eyes and feel the surroundings, Koshiro's breathing, Luli and Leah's breathing, the breathing in the house. And the breathing of all the creatures around. Trees, flowers, the earth, and the stone. The whole person seemed to be in a mysterious state of mind. Suddenly, Kyle opened his eyes. He raised the long sword in his hand and swung it straight forward. A silver-white sword light burst out and shot towards the stone. With a click, the stone as big as a head was split in two like tofu. The sword light still did not disappear, and a long sword mark was cut on the ground. Chapter 33. Koshiro nodded with satisfaction. That's great. I didn't expect to reach the iron cutting realm so quickly. I thought it would take some time. So amazing. Is this the flying slash that Kyle mentioned? Luli and Leah covered their mouths in surprise. Kyle looked at the scene in disbelief. Is this really the effect he can achieve? Suddenly, Kyle looked at Koshiro with guilt. Sorry, Master, you messed up the ground like this. Koshiro waved his hand indifferently. The ground doesn't matter. I am very pleased to see that my students have made such progress. I will find someone to repair the ground. Kyle didn't think about repairing it himself. He didn't know how to do it, so he could only count it as food expenses. Next, Koshiro tested Luli and Leah. He saw it. The swordsmanship of these three people was all self-taught with the help of a book. I don't know whether to say that they are careless or have high comprehension. Without the guidance of a master, it is difficult to ensure the standard of movements when learning swordsmanship by yourself. If the movements are not standard, it is easy to hurt your foundation. Fortunately, the three of them practiced strictly according to the movements in the book. The test was over soon. As expected, Luli's swordsmanship was average and she needed to practice from the basics. And Leah surprised Koshiro a little. After the test, she gave a good evaluation. He didn't expect that a girl would practice swordsmanship to such a level at this age. As long as she practices seriously, it won't take long to cut iron. And this little girl actually mastered the observation hockey. Koshiro soon arranged a training plan for the three. Lily and Leah, you two should practice basic moves first. The most important thing is Luli. Your basic skills are still lacking and you need a long time to practice. As for Kyle, I will teach you separately, not only swordsmanship, but also hockey. Lily felt a little depressed. Master Koshiro was right, but she always felt that she was underestimated. No, she couldn't let them down. At most, she could practice during the day and learn medicine at night. Sooner or later, she would catch up with them. Kyle stepped forward and patted her on the shoulder. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Yeah, I know, Luli nodded. Time passed smoothly. The dojo also had a different scene from before. In the past, some half-grown children learned swordsmanship, but now Kyle and his friends have joined. The little brats also saw Kyle chopping off the stone. Therefore, Kyle became the eldest brother of the restaurant. Leah became the second senior sister. Luli became the third senior sister sadly. Because of this, Luli was sad for a long time. She used to be the elder sister, but now she has become the younger sister, and she is teased by Leah every day. If she hadn't been accustomed to being inferior to Leah, she would probably have become autistic. The most annoying thing is that Leah also gained a little fangirl in the dojo. The daughter of the gym owner, Kuina. Since she was young, she has hoped to become a strong swordsman in the future because of the influence of the environment. In addition, they are both girls, so they are naturally closer. Every day, She follows Leah and shouts that she wants to become the strongest swordsman in the world. In the past, Kyle always thought that Koshiro was a man who favored boys over girls. The reason why he didn't think highly of Kuina was because she was a girl. But gradually, Kyle felt that this was not the case. Koshiro usually loves his daughter very much. Even if Kuina said that she wanted to learn swordsmanship, he would agree with a smile. With this kind of personality, I don't know why he always denies Kuina. Until this night. The quiet and peaceful village welcomed a group of different people. A runny-nosed child ran back to the dojo breathlessly and shouted as soon as he entered the door. A group of weirdos came outside the village. Many children asked what the weirdos were, and the child who ran back stammered and couldn't explain clearly. It's a very tall person, as tall as the roof. He gestured with his arms. And such a big face. Finally, he took all the children to the village entrance to watch. Kyle, who was about to go home, was stunned. How could the description look so much like the people he had seen before? At this time, all the children who went out returned to the dojo. There were several people following behind. Kyle took a look. Okay, it's these people from the Revolutionary Army again. There is no change in their dress, all of them are covered with hoods. The difference from last time is that there are 4 or 5 more people this time. Kyle didn't understand how difficult it would be for such a prominent group to not be discovered. Also, he remembered that in the original book, the Revolutionary Army came. It was only a few years later that they came here. That time, it seemed to be for food. What is it for this time? Could it be that Koshiro is really a member of the Revolutionary Army? It doesn't look like it. How could the Revolutionary Army choose to live in seclusion in a remote village and open a gym? Several people also saw Kyle and the other two, and they were also a little surprised. The blonde girl Ginny couldn't help it first. Hey, brother, we meet again. Kyle also greeted with a stiff smile. Yes, what a coincidence. Are you also here to become my disciple? At this time, Luli and Leah also recognized several people. Aren't these the people they met at Chunya's restaurant last time? This woman seems to be particularly good at eating. She eats more than the 3 of them. Haha, then you guessed wrong, brother. We are here to find Mr. Koshiro for something, not to become my disciple. At this time, Koshiro also walked out of the door and was not surprised to see several people. Still with the usual smiling expression. Long time no see. Long time no see, Mr. Koshiro. Drago adjusted his hood, as if greeting an old friend. Koshiro also noticed the few people who were talking and laughing. Do you know each other? I saw him not long ago in the kingdom of Oiko. He's a very nice little guy. After a few simple greetings with the few people, he led them into the gym. Because the heights of the few people were too outrageous. Don't expect to get into the house. He had to ask the few people to sit down in the small courtyard of the gym. Koshiro waved his hand to send away the students, and those who should go home went home. Kyle also left the gym with the 2 sisters. Soon, only he and the few people from the Revolutionary Army were left in the gym. I don't know what the few people said. Koshiro no longer had the smiling expression he had in the past, and Kuina beside him couldn't help crying. It was also from this day on. Koshiro's attitude towards Kuina changed. She was hit by her father when she just started to learn swordsmanship. Women will become weaker when they grow up. They have defects in swordsmanship and cannot become the strongest swordsman. However, Kuina is not a child who accepts her fate. She wants to prove to her father that even a girl can still become the strongest. She can also inherit her father's legacy. Chapter 34. On the way home, Leah whispered. Should we eavesdrop on what they are saying? I feel like those people are so weird. They dress mysteriously. Forget it, there's nothing to eavesdrop on. After a day of training, Luli was exhausted and just wanted to go home and sleep, not caring whether others were weird or not. Seeing that her sister was not interested, Leah looked at Kyle again. Just be quiet, Kyle poked her forehead unhappily. You also said that others dress mysteriously, so you don't want others to find out. That's why I'm curious, Leah said confidently. Then do you know that curiosity kills the cat? But I'm not a cat. Kyle was angry and amused. That's right, you're not a cat, you're a stubborn donkey. Since you can't win the argument, you can always beat her. He picked up the little girl and slapped her on the butt a few times, and taught her a lesson while beating her. You're curious. You're talking back to me. You're obviously not training enough. Even though she was beaten, Leah still looked unconvinced, and she opened her mouth to bite Kyle's arm. Crack. It felt like she was biting not flesh, but steel, and the little girl only felt a toothache. Kyle, why are you so hard? Hee hee. This is the armament hockey, which makes you not study hard. After a long while, there was no response, and Kyle thought the girl was angry. Okay, I'll tell you about those people when I go back. It's not a good thing to know too much about some things. But there was still no response. Turned around and looked. Good guy, Leah, who was lying on her shoulder, had snot bubbles hanging on her nose at this time, and she was pouting her little mouth, mumbling something. But it was definitely not a good thing, probably scolding Kyle again. Kyle touched her head lovingly. He picked up Luli with his right hand and disappeared in an instant. 5 years passed in a flash. Koshiro is indeed the best swordsmanship teacher in the East China Sea. The three of them had a good foundation, and with his guidance, their swordsmanship improved by leaps and bounds. Koshiro also read Kyle's booklet during the process, and he felt that the swordsmanship on it was very helpful to him. Unfortunately, he couldn't understand the text. Kyle needed to explain a lot of things. Koshiro was not secretive to the three of them, and he taught them everything he knew. Kyle wanted to stay in the gym to practice, but was stopped by Koshiro in the end. In his words, the road to becoming a swordsman is not achieved through practice, but also requires real battles. Temper between life and death, and understand the swordsmanship in battle. The same goes for domineering. Koshiro also discovered a very serious problem with Kyle. That is, he is very cowardly and afraid of death. It would be difficult to hone his swordsmanship between life and death. Kyle didn't care about it. Everyone has something they are afraid of. Isn't it normal to be afraid of death? What is the purpose of practicing hard? Isn't it just to live better? If you choose to fight for life and death for the sake of strong strength, it is extremely not worth it in Kyle's opinion. He has always been determined that he is just an ordinary person, the difference is that he is a little luckier. Unlike the protagonist, he does not have the ability to do sit-ups. There is only one life, and if you die, you die. So no matter what, your life safety always comes first. In a mountain forest west of Shimokatsuki village. Night falls. A bonfire is particularly dazzling in the dim woods. Several people sat in a circle, all staring at the barbecue on the fire. Not long ago, several people had dinner at the gym. Unfortunately, the chef of the gym is limited and not a master. It already needs to provide meals for a large group of people, and now Kyle and Leah, two foodies, have come. They used to be good eaters. Now, as their strength increases, their appetite also increases. Most of the time, the chef collapses before they are full. To prevent the gym from going bankrupt, and for their own money. The wild beasts in the mountains and the nearby sea beasts suffered. In the past, Kyle always took Luli and Leah to eat barbecue together, but now there is one more person. Kuina. Ever since Koshiro told her that girls can't become the strongest swordsman, this girl seems to have changed into a different person, and she has been practicing hard all day. Today, several people forced her to come out to play. Kyle was applying bottles and jars of seasonings on the barbecue. Leah's eyes rolled around, and she reached out instantly, trying to tear off the best thigh meat while the others were not paying attention. Pa! Kyle slapped the little hand that was stretched out. Said unhappily. Why are you in such a hurry? It's not even cooked yet. Aren't you afraid of having diarrhea after eating it? Leah put her hands behind her back, turned her head and whistled, indicating that she had done nothing. Luli and Kuina were both amused and laughed. After such a long time together, Kuina has already integrated into this small circle. These three are her rare friends in the gym. Other children can't compare with these three brothers and sisters in terms of swordsmanship or mentality. The three waited for a long time. Kyle clapped his hands. It's done. As soon as he finished speaking, a half-human high-thigh meat appeared in Leah's hand. Kyle didn't say anything. 4 legs, just one for each person. Kuina was still young, so Kyle only cut half of it for her. Holding the meat that was almost half her height, Kuina hesitated. This is too much. It will be a waste if I can't finish it. Kyle waved his hand. It's okay, eat more. Only when you are full can you have the strength to practice. Leah nodded in agreement. Guina, let me tell you, if you want to become the strongest swordsman, the first step is to be able to eat. The more you eat, the stronger you will be. Guina blinked her big eyes. Is that so? But Sister Leah and Brother Kyle are very good eaters, and their swordsmanship is also very good. Is Sister Leah right? But my father said that girls can't become the strongest swordsmen. When they grow up, their bodies will be worse than boys. How is that possible? Leah immediately refuted. Why can't girls become the strongest swordsmen? I haven't heard of this saying. My dream is to become the world's strongest swordsman. What's wrong with being a girl? I can do it anyway. Kyle also agreed with Leah's idea. The physical differences between men and women have little impact on combat. He is a swordsman, what does he know about the path to being a swordsman? Ahem. Suddenly I realized that it was not right to say that about Koshiro. He changed his way of speaking. Kuina, you have to remember that the path to being a swordsman is something you have to walk on your own, not something that others have said. To become the strongest depends on talent and hard work, and of course luck. You will only know where the future leads to after you have walked it yourself. It doesn't matter whether others recognize you, as long as you don't deny yourself. Kuina was thoughtful. Her eyes gradually became firm. Yes, even if she is a girl, she will become the strongest female swordsman in the world. Kyle actually has a guess. Koshiro probably said that because he was afraid of losing his daughter. The day after the Revolutionary Army came, Kyle found a tombstone in the dojo. Later I learned that it was the tombstone of Kuina's mother. This makes sense. Why did the Revolutionary Army come to the dojo? And why did they seem to be very familiar with Koshiro? They probably knew each other for a long time. Chapter 35. The reason why he knew everything was because of Koshiro's wife, Kuina's mother. Kyle guessed that Kuina's mother should have been a member of the Revolutionary Army before, and the last time he came, he should have informed her of her mother's death. Otherwise, there would be no tombstone. Koshiro lost his wife, and he was afraid of losing his daughter again, so he always denied Kuina's swordsmanship. Because there will be too many fights on the road to becoming the strongest swordsman. Maybe one day he will hear the news of his daughter's death again. The next day, Kyle and the two sisters came to the gym with small bags to say goodbye to Master Koshiro. They have been training outside for 5 years, and now it is time to leave. I don't know what changes have taken place in the village now. Koshiro looked at the 3 people with satisfaction. They are the best students he has ever taught. He has taught what should be taught, and how to go in the future depends on their own choices. If you have made up your mind, go ahead. No matter what happens, remember to be firm in your faith. Thank you for your teachings over the years, Master. We will never forget them. At this time, Kuina, who was practicing sword, also heard what they said. She put away her bamboo sword and ran over. With reluctance on her face. Brother Kyle, Sister Luli, Sister Leah, are you leaving? They were having fun together yesterday, why are you leaving suddenly? Since Kyle's guidance yesterday, Kuina's personality has become much more cheerful. Although she still calls Koshiro father when she sees him, at least she is not as repulsive as before. Kyle squatted down and touched her head. Now Kyle is 16 years old, 1.8 meters tall, and has grown into a handsome boy. We have been practicing for so long, it's time for us to go home. We will come to see you again in a while. Kyle still remembered that Kuina still had a calamity, but it would be 2 years later, and he would come again then. They have been together for several years. Leah also went forward to hug Kuina. With her previous personality, she would definitely let Kyle take Kuina away with her. But now she is no longer the ignorant girl she was before. Kuina is still young and has her own family. If she follows them, it will be too cruel for Master Koshiro. She likes this little girl very much and has the same dream as her. She doesn't know if there will be a chance to fight in the future. Kuina, you must work hard. Sister will wait for you on the road to swordsmanship, and I hope you can become a powerful swordsman by then. Kuina nodded heavily, her eyes full of determination. I will definitely become the strongest swordsman in the world. After the three said goodbye, they left the gym. The houses in the town were also sold at a low price. Walking all the way to the beach where we arrived, there was already a ship docked here. This was the trophy when Kyle and his friends went out to hunt pirates. After someone cleans it up, it can still be used. The boat slowly sailed away. On the beach, Guina kept waving until the boat was far away. On the boat, Kyle held a nautical chart in his hand, looked at the compass in his hand, and after determining the direction, he drove the boat forward. Originally, Kyle planned to fly back with the two sisters, but considering that this was the first time to sail alone, he thought it would be safer. A lot of food and water were prepared. They were not in a hurry, so they treated the journey as a tour. The boat sailed slowly and sailed for 2 days. On the deck of the boat, the three of them lay on the beach chairs, with various fruit snacks and drinks next to them. Kyle had a cigar in his mouth, a nautical chart in his hand, but his eyes were looking elsewhere. The sea is so big, and the sun is so white. It was October, and the weather was a bit hot. The two women were wearing sexy swimsuits and sunglasses at this time. The two sisters are the same age as Kyle, and they have long lost their immaturity after several years of growth. Now they are two lively beauties. Luli is more conservative, wearing a pink wide-brimmed tube top and shorts. Her legs are crossed, and her little feet are shaking. Holding a thick medical book in her hand, she frowns and ponders from time to time. As expected of the gentle Luli, she looks so good even when she frowns. Kyle commented in a low voice. Then he looked to the other side. Leah is much bolder. The light blue triangle dress seems to be a little deformed on both sides because of her big chest. She wears light blue lace-up panties. The sisters are not shy about Kyle. Their beautiful figures are fully revealed. Leah sneaked over and whispered in Kyle's ear, "Does it look good?" Kyle is not hypocritical, either. If it was delivered to his door, he would not refuse it. He hugged her in his arms. Our Leah-chan is the cutest. You are so shameless to say that. Leah ignored the big hands on her body and just lay in Kyle's arms. Luli, who was standing by, watched the two of them touching each other. Her little face flushed unconsciously. She covered her face with a book. Fearing that a war would start, Kyle stopped his aggressive actions. Calculate the time. At our speed, it will take 10 days to reach Maple Leaf Island. Kyle, do you think we should go to Oiko to pick up Harua first, or go back to the village first? Leah sat up and asked. She hadn't eaten Harua's food for a long time. In the past few years in Shimotsuki village, she either had the big pot meal in the gym or went home to cook for herself. She was tired of it. Kyle thought for a while and said, "Let's go back to the village first, and pick up Chunye when we have our own boat." Okay, he yawned out of boredom. Anyway, we've been waiting for so long, and I wonder if Chunye misses us. I'm really looking forward to going out to sea together then. Suddenly, Leah sat up and stared in one direction. Oh, I just felt bored, and I didn't expect a group of pirates to come. It's just right to test the results of my practice during this period. Kyle and Luli looked up. It's true. As the ship approached, the three of them also saw the pirate ship clearly. A large ship. Kyle recognized it at a glance, with a cat head flag hanging on it, and the bow is also set in the shape of a black cat head. Isn't this the Black Cat Pirates? Luli, Leah, go change your clothes quickly, just in time to use these pirates to test the results of your practice over the years. Okay. The two sisters immediately went back to the cabin to change clothes. It's not easy to fight in this outfit now. On the Beiji Braku, a man sat in the captain's room, with a shiny black slicked back hair and a straight black suit. He pushed his glasses from time to time, and his eyes sparkled with wisdom. This man was Captain Beiji Klo, known as the second smartest man in the world. At this time, a pirate on the observation deck shouted at the captain's room. Captain, a small sailboat was found ahead, without any flags. There are only 3 people on the ship. Klo pushed his glasses and ordered. Don't get close first, use artillery fire to stop the ship. The little pirate immediately started to execute the order after receiving it. Zhang, wearing a wide-brimmed hat and heart-shaped glasses, also began to command the gunners to attack. Fire! Fire! Remember not to hit Captain Klo's ship. He is also the deputy captain, dancer and hypnotist on the ship. A little pirate laughed. Deputy captain, you are too funny. How could we possibly hit our own ship? Yeah, even if we hit it randomly, we wouldn't hit our own ship. Zhang went up and slapped everyone. You bunch of idiots. Not only the ship under our feet, but also the ship opposite is Captain Klo's, remember this. Several pirates kept nodding in agreement. Otherwise, why are others deputy captains? Aren't they just a bunch of minions? This is a different ideological awareness. Chapter 36. Kyle, they just approached a distance. They saw more than 10 shells fired from the opposite side. All of them exploded near the ship. The seawater hit several meters high, and the ship kept shaking with the seawater. Kyle, these pirates seem to want our ship, Luli said with his chin lowered. He, just in time, I also want their ship. Such a big ship, if it is sold, it will probably be worth a lot of Bailey. Kyle was still worrying about the money for building a ship in the future, but he didn't expect someone to deliver it today. He immediately controlled the ship to rush towards the Black Cat Pirates. The distance between the two ships was getting closer and closer. A group of pirates on the Black Cat Pirates rubbed their eyes and looked at this scene in disbelief. What's going on the other side? They didn't run away after being attacked, nor did they attack them. They just rushed straight over. It's not good. Captain, it's not good. The little minions immediately went to report in a panic. Klo pushed his glasses and glared at the little minion. Why is it bad? It's just a small boat, what can happen? Did it run away? Klo stood up immediately. The duck in hand can't fly away like this. No, Captain, the other side didn't run away, but rushed towards us. Klo looked at the little minion with regret. Are you an idiot? Wouldn't it be better to rush over? Just do it. Can't you hit it so close? But you can't hit it. The shells will deviate from the trajectory when they get close to that ship. What? Klo walked out of the captain's room immediately. He wanted to see what was going on. After coming out, he saw a ship rushing towards him at a high speed not far away. Because of the high speed, it also stirred up high waves behind. Klo soon found something wrong. What's wrong with these guys under his command? Not a single shell hit the other side's ship. The shells that were supposed to hit seemed to be disturbed by something and inexplicably deviated from the course. He stretched out his hand to rub his eyes, suspecting that he had seen it wrong. Or was his myopia worse? Until he saw the ship on the opposite side getting closer and closer, and a man and two women standing on the bow, looking at them with a smile. Only then did Chloe realize that the situation was not good. This time he probably met a tough guy. The strange deviation of the shells was probably caused by the other side. Captain Chloe, what should we do now? Zhang Gao was also panicked. What if it hit directly? What should we do? What else can we do? Of course we should retreat, bastard. Chloe was worried about the IQ of his vice captain at this time. You said that the other side was not afraid of shells, so why would they stay here and wait for death? Zhang Gao also reacted and quickly directed a group of men. Quick, turn the rudder immediately, retreat. Several minions immediately got busy. But after waiting for a long time, his own ship did not move at all. Zhang Gao immediately wanted to teach these disobedient subordinates a lesson. At this time, Chloe stopped him. Listen, Zhang Gao, we probably provoked a big shot this time. As soon as the string starts, you need to hypnotize those people immediately. I know. Zhang Gao also realized that there would be a fierce battle next. The opponent did not slow down at all, which clearly meant that he wanted to crash directly into them. What kind of lunatic did they provoke? Isn't the opponent afraid that the ship will break down and fall into the sea? Chloe had quietly prepared his weapons at this time. As long as Zhang Gao hypnotized the three people on the opposite side, he would immediately take action and not give the other side any chance to breathe. Just when all the pirates thought that the two ships were about to collide, the small sailboat suddenly braked. It stopped straight in front of them. The two ships were only half a meter apart at this time. Everyone wiped a cold sweat. It seems that the other side is still cherishing their lives. Chloe looked at the three people on the bow of the opposite ship, always felt that he seemed to have seen them somewhere, but he couldn't remember for a moment. It's no wonder that he couldn't recognize them. Kyle and the others were only 10 years old when they appeared in the newspaper. Now 6 years have passed, and the three have already changed. Chloe didn't think about it anymore, and now the two ships are approaching. As long as Zhang Gao's hypnosis succeeds later, he can be sure to kill them with one blow. On the small sailboat, Kyle directly covered the observation color. It's okay, there are 52 people in total including the captain, you guys be careful. Remember not to damage the boat. This thing is worth a lot of money. Don't worry, Kyle. Leah immediately drew out her long sword and jumped onto the opposite ship. The sword flashed, and a small minion fell to the ground on the spot. Sister, let's see who can kill the most pirates. Luli followed closely behind, without he said angrily. I won't compete. He also slashed with a sword, and a small minion who was controlling the cannon had a blood mark on his neck before he could react. Seeing this, Chloe hurriedly shouted. Zhang Gao, what are you waiting for? Zhang Gao didn't expect the two women to be so decisive and start right away. He quickly stretched out his hand to stop them. Please wait a moment, two beautiful ladies. Luli and Leah both stopped their actions and looked at the suspiciously dressed man in front of them curiously. They wanted to see what tricks this guy was up to. Kyle on the boat didn't stop him either. He also wanted to see if Zhang Gao could hypnotize the sisters now. If he succeeded, he could take this opportunity to teach them a lesson. Zhang Gao breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the two guys stopped, otherwise he wouldn't have the confidence to hypnotize them directly. He didn't even bother to adjust his hat. He quickly took out the hypnotic ring from his arms, and the ring was hung by a thin rope and swung left and right. I say 1, 2, Zhang Gao. You will fall asleep. Both women looked at this strange action in surprise. What is this guy doing? I don't know, but be careful. Luli held the sword tightly, guarding against the other party's sudden attack. Seeing that the two women were watching seriously and did not stop him, Zhang Gao was overjoyed and whispered. 1, 2, Zhang Gao. As soon as the voice fell, the two sisters suddenly felt dizzy and wanted to sleep immediately. Luli secretly cried out that it was not good, and hurriedly bit the tip of her tongue, and the confused look disappeared immediately. Leah also realized this. Haha, it's too late to react now. With a laugh, Chloe rushed up with the 10-blade cat claw. He didn't give the two people time to react at all. At this moment, Chloe, who was about to attack the two women, suddenly stopped, as if the signal was not good, and stood there straight. That was the time of this pause. The two sisters had already woken up and quickly pulled back to Kyle's side. Cold sweat had already appeared on their foreheads. It was a close call, they almost flipped over just now. At this time, Kyle's teasing voice was heard. Are you not curious? Both women felt a little ashamed, and had guessed that the weirdo just now had the ability to hypnotize others. If it weren't for Kyle, even if they didn't die today, they would be injured. Sorry, we know we were wrong. The two also argued and began to admit their mistakes immediately. Seeing that the effect was achieved, Kyle didn't say anything more. Okay, now that you have realized your mistake, pay attention. Don't look down on others just because you have a little strength. This sea is very big, and there are many powerful people. The two women nodded timidly. At this time, Chloe on the opposite side also regained his ability to move, and as soon as he recovered, he looked at Kyle with fear on his face. This is the power of the devil fruit. Chapter 37. It turns out that the one who has been on the boat is the strongest, and he was also responsible for the strange changes in the shells just now. A sense of humiliation also emerged in his heart. He has such strong strength, but he didn't take action, and let the two girls take action. What does this mean? Cat playing with mouse. But he is obviously the cat. He looked straight at Kyle. My luck is really bad. I actually met a strong man like you, but you underestimate me too much. He held the 10 blades cat claw tightly in his hand and stood on tiptoe. The next moment, he appeared silently on the opposite ship. The tip of the knife pointed directly at the back of Kyle's neck. He saw that the man in front of him was the leader of the three, and his strength was unknown. He was a difficult devil fruit ability user. Whenever he thought of the feeling of powerlessness of losing control of his body just now, Chloe felt terrified. He must get rid of this man first. Then he and his men will besiege the two women. Ding, ding. After 2 dings, Chloe's weapon did not hit Kyle, but was blocked by 2 long swords. Luli and Leah looked at Chloe with indifference. When this guy was talking just now, they had already used the observation hockey to cover the whole place. Chloe's speed was really fast, almost catching up with the razor in the Navy's 6 styles. Unfortunately, he encountered 3 monsters. Interesting, it can actually determine the position of my silent step. Chloe retreated instantly after missing the attack. He retreated to his own ship silently. After standing still, he could see that cold sweat had appeared on his forehead. He also understood the gap between the 2 sides. The 3 people on the opposite side were not the existence that pirates like them could fight against. Especially the 2 women. With them around, it was difficult for him to get close to the man on the opposite side. He had to think of a way. He raised his hand and pushed his glasses with his wrist, his eyes flashing with wisdom. 3 of you, I admit that you are very strong. I apologize for the previous offense. I wonder what conditions can let us go. Oh, Kyle became interested. Is this guy Chloe going to give in? He is indeed a smart man. He understood the gap between the 2 sides with just 1 move. Kyle became interested, in addition to the bounty of these guys. What he wanted most was the skill of the silent step, a move that was completely out of the scope of science. After thinking for a while, he said, I am not a cruel person. How about this, give me the move you just used, and I will let you go. Of course, the treasure on the ship must be left behind. He planned to fool the other party first. First trick the skill of the silent step, and then let Luli and Leah solve it. As long as he doesn't do it, it won't be considered a violation of the agreement. Okay, I hope you will keep your promise. Chloe agreed very straightforwardly. Kyle nodded, indicating that what he valued most was the promise. Chloe began to command his brothers not to resist. Zhang, go and move the treasures on the ship to these 3 adults. Okay, I don't understand what the boss means, but I still have to listen to the boss. The minions also dropped their weapons and retreated to the side. Chloe himself slowly walked towards Kyle. At the same time, he spread his hands to indicate that he was not carrying any weapons. Kyle is skilled and bold, and there is no need to worry about him playing tricks. He called Luli and Leah to receive the pirates' treasures. The sisters didn't understand what Kyle was doing. Didn't they agree to rob the ship? Why are they letting them go now? If you don't understand, don't think about it. He immediately jumped onto the opposite ship to prepare to move the treasure. Seeing them leave, Chloe's mouth curled up slightly. The plan was successful, as long as he approached alone. He was confident that he could kill the man opposite at the fastest speed. The silent step was activated instantly. A dagger appeared in his hand from nowhere. The blade pointed directly at Kyle's throat. Ha ha ha, you are indeed a young brat. But before he could get close to Kyle, he heard 2 sounds of swords hitting flesh, and then he felt a pain in his chest. He looked down and saw 2 long swords piercing his chest. He turned his head and looked at the 2 women in disbelief. He clearly used the silent step. How did they catch up? Your speed. How could it be? Leah drew out her long sword and wiped the blood. Your speed is indeed very fast. It looks a bit like the shave in the 6 styles of the Navy, but my observation hockey is very powerful, and all your movements can't escape my eyes. 6 styles of the Navy. Observation hockey. What is this? Unfortunately, no one explained his doubts to him, and his eyes were full of confusion and unwillingness. He never thought that he would be trapped here today, and they are characters I have never heard of. I used to be proud of my intelligence, but today I found that intelligence is useless. It is nothing in front of absolute strength. He underestimated the strong men on this sea. He fell on the deck with a plop. Kyle sighed helplessly. This man really would not surrender so easily. It's a pity that the silent step was lost, but it doesn't matter. Crow is quite powerful. He can comprehend the silent step by himself. His speed can be comparable to the shave in the 6 styles, and it is a silent advanced version. Later, he pretended to die and tried to seize the property of the Kaya family. He is a character, but unfortunately his vision is too narrow. Kyle, what about the remaining guys? Luli asked. Looking at the other minions, Kyle shook his head. Kill them all. Most of them don't have a bounty. If they are handed over to the Navy, they will only be locked up for a few days. They will be a nuisance if they are released at that time. Seeing the captain fall, Zhang looked at the 2 women in disbelief. Why do you know the captain's silent steps? No, it's different. You use sound. However, he was destined not to get an answer. What he got was only the revengeful attacks of the 2 women. Zhang wanted to use hypnosis when he saw the situation was not good. But as soon as he took out the hypnosis ring, he was smashed into pieces by Luli's sword. You guys actually want to use that trick. You underestimate us too much. Then he slashed with a sword. Zhang fell to the ground, holding his throat. Humph, it's you who caused us to be taught a lesson by Kyle. You're so lucky. Leah was still not satisfied at this time, and raised her foot to kick hard. Lily hurriedly stopped her. Leah, don't kick. You have to exchange the bounty later. If you can't see your face clearly, you will lose a lot. Only after hearing this did Leah retract her foot angrily. At this time, the other pirates were already scared. The captain and the vice captain were killed like this. Who are these 2 women? They actually have such terrifying strength. What should they do? Run away or beg for mercy? As for resistance, forget it. I didn't see the miserable state of the 2 captains. Especially the black-haired woman, her methods were really cruel. The opponents she met were either cut in half or kicked into a mess. The next scene can be imagined. None of the minions escaped, and they all followed the 2 captains. But there was one person who caught the attention of the three. He looked very similar to the captain who had just been killed. After asking, I learned that this guy was called Nuki Yanu. He was the shipwright on this pirate ship. When he was caught by them, he kept begging for mercy, hoping that his identity as a shipwright would make these killers let him go. Unfortunately, Kyle didn't like this kind of stuff at all. Kyle guessed that in the original book, it was probably this guy who was caught and executed instead of Chloe, but it didn't matter. Anyway, they are all dead. In the future, the Kaya family in Zailuobu village will have one less enemy. After several people looted the entire ship, they actually found nearly 20 million baileys, as well as some other miscellaneous gold, silver and jewelry. They sighed that they were indeed smart pirates, and they had plans. Unlike other pirates, they would spend all the money they had. After looting all the useful treasures, Kyle called the Navy's Den Den Mushi. The pirate world is similar to the previous life in this regard. The Navy also has a fixed Den Den Mushi number. It's similar to the security personnel in the previous life. They usually accept requests for help, receive pirates, and ship pirate ships. As long as you tell your location, the Navy will arrange for the nearest branch to come. The three waited for more than an hour. A Navy warship finally arrived. Navy Branch 153. Why do I feel familiar? Looking at the logo on the warship, Kyle thought of a man playing with an axe. It seems that he also chopped garp. Chapter 38. But at this point in time, Monka is probably just a soldier. The warship slowly approached, and all the Marines raised their guns vigilantly. They found it hard to believe that it was these three who defeated the Black Cat pirates. They had also fought with this pirate group before, and Captain Crook was an extremely difficult pirate. Especially the two skills he mastered. Silent Step and Spoon. Their branch suffered a lot because of this. And this person is also very smart, and he has fooled them several times. It is suspected that the Black Cat pirates are playing some tricks this time. The main reason is that Kyle and his men look too young. A middle-aged officer shouted. I am Aaron, the Lieutenant Colonel of the 153rd Branch of the Navy. Excuse me, are you the one who defeated the Black Cat pirates? Kyle looked at the Lieutenant Colonel, who looked like an uncle, with no special features. Yes, a total of 52 people, all here. Thinking of something, Kyle asked again. Uncle, the life and death of the pirates should not affect the amount of the bounty, right? It's okay, brother, as long as it matches the bounty order, it doesn't matter. Lieutenant Colonel Aaron waved his hand indifferently, signaling his men to go and verify. He didn't care about the life and death of these pirates. As soon as they received the order, several Marines took the bounty order to verify their identities. In order to let the newcomers see the world, Aaron specially arranged them to go. But when several new Marines boarded the pirate ship and saw it, they immediately vomited by holding the boat, and looked at Kyle and the other two as if they were looking at some devil. It took a long time for them to confirm it. When they returned to the warship, their calves were still trembling. Aaron looked at Kyle and the others differently. From the scene, these pirates were basically solved with one shot. Even their 153rd branch would not have an easy task to deal with the Black Cat pirates. Otherwise, they would not have sent a lieutenant colonel this time. Then you can imagine the strength of these three people. At this time, the Marines who went to check also finished the statistics. Report to the colonel, the captain of the Black Cat pirates, Momoki Crow, has a bounty of 8 million baileys. The deputy captain, Zhangao, has a bounty of 5 million baileys. The cat brother Bougie has a bounty of 2 million baileys. The cat brother Sam has a bounty of 2 million baileys. All have been verified. In addition, there are 70% new pirate ships and various weapons. The Marines chattered. In the end, the bounty totaled 80 million baileys. The most valuable of them is this pirate ship. The ship alone is worth 55 million baileys. The main reason is that this ship is well maintained and there is no damage in this battle. And it is a large sailing ship. I remember that in the original book, a second-hand ship like the Mary was worth 100 million Baileys. After confirming that it was correct, the Navy moved the Baileys to Kyle's ship without hesitation. They brought enough Baileys when they came, so as to avoid unnecessary troubles. Looking at the piles of Baileys, the three people's eyes were shining. Lieutenant Colonel Aaron saw that the handover was completed, and he was not in a hurry to leave. He always felt that he had seen these three people somewhere, but he couldn't remember for a while. And their clothes were clean at this time, without even a trace of blood, let alone any injuries. That means they crushed this group of pirates with absolute strength. As a lieutenant colonel of the naval branch, he didn't know about such a powerful bounty hunter. In the end, this was a dereliction of duty. He looked at Kyle and asked, "What are your names?" "My name is Kyle." He pointed to the two women who were holding Baileys and smiling foolishly. "They are my sisters, Luli and Leah." Kyle, such a familiar name, I seem to have heard this name somewhere. Aaron held his forehead and thought. At this time, a subordinate whispered a few words in his ear. After listening, Aaron was stunned, looking at Kyle in surprise. "You are the beheaded man who captured a pirate with a bounty of hundreds of millions in the kingdom of Oiko 5 years ago, Kyle." No wonder I felt I had seen him somewhere. At that time, this person's reputation caused a sensation in the entire East China Sea. I didn't expect it to be the boy in front of me. No wonder he could easily solve the Black Cat pirates. Kyle's face was dark, and he suddenly remembered that the Navy gave him a title. The beheaded man. It's really ugly, and I don't know what these guys think. They don't know how to be more domineering. It's indeed me. I didn't expect you to know it, Uncle. After getting confirmation, Aaron's attitude changed immediately, with a smile on his face, as if he had met an old friend for many years. "Mr. Kyle, you don't know that you helped the Navy a lot back then. It's an honor to meet you here today." "Uncle, you're flattering me. That's what I should do. It's all for justice." Kyle was very modest and didn't mention the bounty of hundreds of millions back then. Many Marines looked at Kyle with burning eyes, as if they were looking at some idol. Aaron also looked at him with respect. Although the other party was a bounty hunter, what he did was similar to their Navy. Such people deserve respect. "Haha, Mr. Kyle's nobleness makes me admire you. The sea needs people like you." It was noon. In order to thank them for their help to the Navy, Aaron immediately invited the three to have dinner on the warship. Such a powerful bounty hunter is still worth making friends with. Maybe he will need his help when he encounters a powerful pirate. At this time, Leah pulled Kyle's arm, looking at him expectantly. She has never eaten Navy food before, and this good opportunity cannot be missed. Kyle touched the little girl's head lovingly. "Thank you very much, Uncle." The three of them boarded the warship happily. It is worthy of being a Navy. The food is not comparable to that of ordinary people. Many ingredients are specially supplied by the Navy. This meal took 2 hours. When the sisters left, they were still holding several bags of snacks in their arms. After saying goodbye, the warship towed the pirate ship away. On the warship, a chef came to the captain's office with a long list. He said tremblingly, "Lieutenant Colonel, we are running out of food. At most, we have enough food for 1 meal." Aaron was stunned. "Didn't we bring enough food for a week when we came out? How come it's gone so soon?" The chef handed over the list in his hand. "Lieutenant Colonel, take a look for yourself." Aaron picked it up and saw that it was the food list for the banquet for Kyle and the other two. Looking at the several-meter-long list, Aaron almost spit out a mouthful of blood. He found that he had made a wrong decision. "Are you sure you were right? 3 people ate our food for a week. How dare the chef lie?" He nodded to confirm. Seeing this, Aaron slammed the list heavily on the table. He said to his subordinates, "The warship turns around and returns to the base." The subordinate hesitated for a while. "Lieutenant Colonel, don't we have a mission to go to Rogue Town?" Aaron was instantly furious. Idiot, why are you going there now? Didn't you hear that there is no food on the ship? Do you want us to starve to death on the road? The subordinate's forehead was sweating, and he hurried to convey the lieutenant colonel's order. Chapter 39. After parting with the Navy, Kyle and his crew set sail again. The three of them touched their stomachs and lay comfortably on the beach chairs. Kyle, we ate so much food from the Navy, will they hate us for it? Luli asked with some concern. It shouldn't be. They invited us, and they didn't say we couldn't eat more. Besides, didn't they leave some for us? Kyle looked indifferent. The food they brought out had been eaten long ago, and they didn't have time to go to the nearby island for supplies. How could they give up such a good opportunity today? Leah, who was standing by, held her stomach, her face wrinkled. The Navy's food is really delicious, but it's just a little uncomfortable. Kyle looked at her unhappily. Stupid Leah, who told you to eat so much? Now you feel uncomfortable, right? It's so delicious. I saw that you could eat so much, and I felt that I was at a disadvantage, so I ate a little more. You have such a big stomach, but you want to compete with him. You deserve to feel uncomfortable. Luli knocked Leah's forehead with a bang, and then walked into the cabin to take out 2 digestion pills. Open your mouth. Leah opened her mouth and swallowed the pills obediently. Hee, thank you sister. Go, see if you are stupid next time. The rest of the journey was quite smooth. 2 more waves of pirates were caught on the way, but the bounties were very low. The total was no more than 5 million. The pirate ship was also a relatively shabby sloop. The Navy probably wouldn't look down on such a shabby thing. Kyle didn't feel comfortable calling the Navy. It happened that he passed by the 77th branch of the Navy on the way, so he simply went to collect the bounty himself. Orange Town was not far away, and we went to replenish some supplies. The boring life on the sea passed by in a flash, and it was the 12th day of the ship's voyage. Leah stood on the observation deck, looking at the familiar red island in the distance, her eyes full of excitement. Kyle, Luli, come out and see. Maple Leaf Island can be seen. It's early in the morning, why are you making so much noise? You disturbed my sweet dream. Kyle rubbed his still blurry eyes and walked out of the cabin. At this time, Luli also walked out of the cabin. Wearing pajamas, her hair was still a little messy. Obviously, she had just got up and hadn't had time to take care of it. The two jumped onto the observation deck. Where is Maple Leaf Island? Let me see. Leah pointed in a direction, and Luli quickly pointed the telescope there. The outline of an island could be vaguely seen on the sea in the distance. Finally, we're almost home. Will Mom be surprised to see us now? I guess she won't recognize us. She will definitely be surprised. Kyle nodded in agreement. The 3 children have changed dramatically. The little girl has become a beautiful girl, and the handsome boy has become a handsome man. I don't know how Sophia is doing now, and Uncle Loden, I guess they can't beat me now, hee. Leah leaned against the fence with her chin in her hand. She said excitedly. No ambition, Kyle said and jumped onto the deck. Judging from the distance, the ship will probably have to travel for about 4 hours. It's just the right time to exercise for a while and have breakfast. Maple Leaf Island Port. The villagers prepared fishing nets and other tools early in the morning and prepared to go fishing. Mark, why didn't you go to the guard training today? Come and fish with us. A fisherman asked curiously while sorting out the fishing net. Mark was smoking a cigar, lying on the deck and said angrily. It's because of those annoying guys that Boss Lorden asked me to go with you and patrol. Damn it, don't let me catch them, or they will be in trouble. Yeah, those people are getting more and more rampant now. Not only are they powerful, but they also run very fast. Another fisherman also spoke up. Don't dawdle, it will be difficult to fish when the sun comes out. Let's go quickly. Mark threw the cigarette butt into the water and stood up. Huh. Mark raised his hand to cover his sight above, and vaguely saw a ship in the distance, heading towards them. He shouted. Everyone pay attention, an unknown ship has been spotted. Then he jumped off the boat to notify the members of the escort team. Other fishermen also looked up. Is it a pirate ship? Or some other ship? Soon, Lorden and a group of people arrived at the port. Pick up the telescope and take a look. There is no pirate flag, but don't be careless, it is very likely that the pirates deliberately put down the flag. The distance is too far, and the people on the boat cannot be seen clearly. Lorden had to ask everyone to be vigilant. As time passed, the ship slowly approached the port, and the expressions of the people became more and more the more nervous he got. Lorden also clenched the cigarette in his hand. At this time, a crisp voice came from the boat. Uncle Lorden, Uncle Mark, and everyone, long time no see. A girl lay on the fence and waved to everyone. There were also a man and a woman standing next to them. Everyone looked at the three people on the boat. Who are they, and the girl, who seems to know Lorden and Mark, is it an acquaintance? Lorden looked at the three people with surprise in his eyes. These three people look so familiar. And the girl's familiar name slowly overlapped with one person in his memory. The cigarette in his hand fell to the ground with a click. The voice changed, and the appearance was different from that year, but he still recognized it. Shouted with an uncertain tone. Are you Miss Leah, and are they Miss Luli and Kyle? The ship docked at the port. The three jumped down and stood steadily in front of everyone. Long time no see, Kyle greeted familiarly. Hee, I didn't expect Uncle Lorden to recognize us so quickly. Leah seemed very happy. Everyone also reacted. It turned out to be Miss Luli, Miss Leah, and Brother Kyle. Mark stepped forward and put his arm around Kyle's shoulders and said with a smile. Brother Kyle has changed a lot. This physique, this muscle, I can hardly recognize him. Did you know we were coming back, so you all came to the port to welcome us? I don't remember notifying you. Kyle asked curiously. Looking at so many people at the port, he felt like an animal in a zoo, being watched by a large group of people. Go away, you kid really can say that, isn't it because we saw a strange ship? Everyone thought it was a pirate, so they gathered here. Mark hit Kyle's chest in annoyance. Seeing more and more people around, Lorden hurriedly evacuated the crowd. What are you all doing? You are all free, right? Have you finished your work today? Lorden's prestige was still very high, and everyone dispersed after he shouted. Seeing that the surroundings were quiet, he led the three people to the villa on the mountain. Mark shouted loudly from behind. Brother Kyle, let's go to the pub to drink tonight. Okay. Chapter 40. Walking on the road, Leah looked around. Sometimes she ran to the bushes to pick some wild flowers, and sometimes she would take a small stone to scare away the birds in the distance. She put the wild flowers she picked on Luli's head. Sister is so beautiful. She put the remaining flowers on Kyle's head. It's so ugly. Kyle was immediately upset. Lawton smiled. Miss Leah is still the same as before. Indeed, you are still as naughty as before. Kyle replied at the right time. Huh, you are naughty, stupid Kyle. Then he chased the kitten that ran out from nowhere. It took a while to come back. There were still a few leaves hanging on her head. Kyle helped her pick off the weeds and fallen leaves on her body. Everything here is the same as before. Why do you look so curious? If you don't know, you might think it's your first time here. I haven't been back for so long, I always feel it's new. Leah seemed a little tired from running, holding Kyle's arm and panting. The four of them walked slowly and soon arrived at the door of the villa. Lawton also said goodbye to the three people, he had something else to do. Besides, he wouldn't disturb the family when they were reunited. Pushing open the gate. What caught my eye was a beautiful maid with black bear ears on her head, who was constantly punching in the yard. The wind from her fists whistled. It rolled up the fallen leaves around. Under the shade of a tree not far away, Anna was sitting on a stone bench with a book, and a few strands of hair fluttered gently in the breeze. Sophia also saw the three people who came in. After a brief daze, she recognized them. Ah, Miss Luli, Miss Leah, and Xiao Care, you are back. Anna, who was under the shade of the tree, heard the voice and slowly raised her head. Looking at the three people in front of her, she paused for a long time before speaking softly. Welcome home. Woo woo woo. Luli and Leah burst into tears. They went forward and hugged Anna, just like when they were little. Mom, I miss you so much. Mom, I miss you too. Anna's eyes were misty, and she was smiling as she hugged the two girls. I haven't seen my daughter for a few years and she has grown up so big. I can't recognize her. Mom misses you too. Seeing the warm scene of the three people, Kyle didn't dare to hug them. Instead, he opened his arms and turned to look at Sophia. Sophia laughed. I have a lot of sweat on my body, don't you mind, little Kyle? The weather was a bit hot. Sophia was only wearing a thin t-shirt. Since I was training just now, I was sweating a lot. My clothes became a little transparent. I could vaguely see some things I shouldn't see. Ahem, Kyle said righteously, how could we dislike Sister Sophia? Sophia smiled and hugged Kyle in her arms. Kyle clearly felt his head bounce twice. Then he was buried in the forest. It was still the familiar, fragrant and soft embrace. With a sniff, I could still smell the unique fragrance in the forest after the heavy rain. Don't ask why it smells good, because there is no odor in the beautiful mountains. Little Kyle has grown up. He is now Big Kyle. Sophia teased. Sister Sophia is getting more and more beautiful. Is this the reason why little Kyle suddenly grew up? Kyle was embarrassed and hurriedly left the gentle land. For an LSP, this experience really tests willpower. On the other side, the two sisters held Anna's arms and sat in the shade of the tree chatting. They began to talk about what they had seen and heard over the years. Anna listened carefully, with a look of satisfaction in her eyes. They usually communicated through Den Den Mushi, but it was not as good as telling the story in person. To welcome them home. At noon, the chef prepared a large table of food. The family was not short of money, and the three of them ate to their heart's content, and their appetite shocked Anna and Sophia. The chef prepared twice as much food as usual, but he still underestimated the three of them. Even that was not enough for Kyle alone. Lunch lasted for 2 hours. The chef was almost exhausted, and the three of them patted their stomachs with satisfaction. After dinner, the two sisters still pulled Anna to chat. Kyle found Sophia, and he wanted to see how Sophia was practicing the practice booklet he gave her. They estimated that they would go out to sea soon. It is inevitable that some enemies will be provoked at that time. I am afraid that those people will not be able to deal with Kyle and will turn around to cause trouble for his family. Kyle does not believe in the so-called morality. The 6 styles of the Navy you mentioned are okay. I have learned the iron block, shave, moonstep and finger gun. I have mastered some physical techniques. I have also mastered the entry level of observation hockey. As for the armament hockey you mentioned, I still have no idea. Sophia took the booklet from the beginning, like a student, reporting her learning progress to the teacher. Kyle nodded with satisfaction. It is not easy to have such progress. Not everyone has his talent. Besides, Sophia has no one to teach her, and she relies entirely on the knowledge recorded in the booklet. Everyone is born with armament hockey, but it is hidden when it is not awakened, and it depends on personal will. Kyle thought for a while and said, he also wanted to see Sophia's current strength. How about this, I will fight you with armament hockey, and then you can carefully feel this power and remember to use all your strength. Sophia hesitated for a while and said uncertainly. Little Kyle, no, Big Kyle, hee. Sister is not weak, are you sure you want me to use all my strength? Sure, don't underestimate me. Kyle has this confidence now. He has a strong physique since he was a child, and now he has practiced for several years. Under Koshiro's teaching, the armament hockey has also been greatly enhanced, including the advanced use of armament hockey. Ryu Sakura. Seeing that Kyle has already made a posture, Sophia did not hesitate. Immediately used the devil fruit animal form. In the blink of an eye, the 1.7-meter-tall beauty turned into a 4-meter-tall giant panda. Kyle, pay attention. The form has changed, but the voice is still that soft female voice. Kyle thinks this is unscientific. Come on. Sophia immediately threw a punch and attacked Kyle directly. The huge fist carried a terrifying power, and the sound of the air being torn apart could be heard. Come on. Kyle didn't dodge or evade, and threw out a punch as well. The fist was covered with armed color. But he didn't use full force to attack. The two fists hit each other heavily, accompanied by a loud bang. The air waves swept the whole yard, and the leaves rustled. Kyle didn't retreat a step, but he was very surprised. It's worthy of being an animal-type devil fruit. This terrifying power is really not exaggerated. If it weren't for his special physique, this punch wouldn't be so easy to take. Sophia was also surprised at this time. The pain from her fist couldn't be faked. She hadn't felt the pain for a long time. In addition to allowing her to transform, the devil fruit also gave her two abilities. Her strength and physical strength far exceeded those of ordinary people. This was the first time she had felt this kind of pain in so many years. Seeing this, she no longer had any reservations, knowing that Kyle was definitely stronger than him. Her figure flashed, and, shave, was launched instantly. The next moment, she appeared behind Kyle, and her big bear paw attacked the opponent's waist. Finger gun. It was very fast, but it was very ordinary in Kyle's eyes. Without moving, he made a palm with his right hand and grabbed to the right rear. He easily caught Sophia's powerful kick. He swung his right arm, and the muscles on his arm bulged instantly. He threw Sophia, who was in the panda state, more than 10 meters away, and almost hit the courtyard wall. What a terrible power! Sophia stood up and looked at Kyle in disbelief. She was already strong, and with the finger gun, she could kick even a piece of iron to pieces. But Kyle took it easily. She was not discouraged. She rushed forward again. There were rumbling sounds from time to time in the courtyard.